Hello?
Check.
Hello? Okay.
Just make an announcement. Everyone has to hold the button. Like,
Oh, okay.
That's what turns it on.
So just a quick thing before the meeting starts to make sure everyone's microphone is on. Eddie will be our demonstrator, but just turn it over and there's a button on the back just to make sure that it gets turned on. You'll see like the typical like greener, I guess some of you have like handhelds, but for the classic microphones that we all use, if you have them, I guess if not, you're good to go.
You just have to hold it down.
Yeah.
Well, good afternoon. I call the special meeting of the Ames City Council, concert with the student government to order.
And I hereby declare the joint city council meeting between student government and the city of Ames to order.
All right. Well, first of all, we always look forward to meeting together with student government and having a robust conversation. And we thank student government for actually expanding this to 2 hours versus 1 hour. We're always rushing, and usually we're delaying your meeting. So as we get started, I just want to make sure I introduce all of our council members, and then we have staff here. We have Bronwyn Beatty Hansen over here. She's one of our at-large council members. Anita Rollins, who is her first year on council. She's Ward 3. And oh, Tim, sorry. Tim Garton, our Ward 2 council member. And then Gloria, can't see you. Gloria Betcher, Dr. Betcher from Ward 1. Rachel Junk, Ward 4. Did I get everybody? I know that Amber had another city council responsibility tonight, so she cannot make it. And then we have a number of staff members that are here. We can't do things without staff. I'll just start. We have Brian Phillips, who's the assistant city manager. We have Chief Huff. We have Damian Prestiger. He is our traffic engineer. And then Deb Shildroth, other assistant city manager. And then hopefully Steve Shanker will be joining us. Maybe he's here already. I'm not sure. Anybody else I miss? All right.
And for student government, we'd like to turn it over to President Ludwig.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you to Mayor Hala and the City Council, to the ISU administration and staff who came out tonight to talk about the issues on our agenda, and to the senators that could make it early. I know that we started about an hour ahead of time that we usually do, so I know it's an inconvenience, so thank you for making that time. These meetings have been really important every year that I've been involved in student government. The city has been a fantastic partner. I know that there's a number of people in our student government who sit on city commissions, and those partnerships are invaluable. Our communication with the city, as representing a large portion of the city population and talking about what students want to see and how we can work together on the issues that we face as a community, are some of the most important conversations that we have every year. And so I just want to encourage the senators who are having this meeting for the first time to ask a lot of questions, make the most of this time. We actually extended this to 2 hours from the usual hour that we've had in previous years because we've usually run out of time. And I think these conversations are really important, and so look forward to hearing about how we can work together. Thank you.
So just a quick rundown of how the next 2 hours are going to go for us. We're going to be talking about these different topics that concern both the students here at Iowa State and the city of Ames, kind of as this joint venture and collaboration between the both of us. If you're looking at the agenda, we do have just time limits that we're going to try to hold to tonight, just so we can make sure we have good dialogue and discussion on each of these topics, and so just make sure to have your placard up. We'll both be calling on people, and we also want to extend speaking privileges. Mayor Hala will probably call on you to our back 2 tables over there as well if you have any input. But with that, Speaker Mahoney will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I did skip over roll call accidentally. So for student government, senators, when I call your name, just please say here or present, starting with Ogba. Becker. Here. Bruick. Present. Burks. Cecil. Dre. Here. Eisma. Engelken. Here. Frencher. Here. Hackbarth. Heidenreich. Holiday, Kamstra, Kohlhaus, Kuehler, Mahoney, Margaret, Matthews, Mays, Muscar, Momini, Patel, Schnepf, Shivraj, Slade, Slater, Tansey, Thornton, Topete. Here. Vo. Here. Yanting. Here. Perfect. With that, student government has quorum.
All right, well, we're going to start off with the Cyclone Welcome Weekend discussion. I've asked our police chief, Chief Huff, to kind of do a little bit of an overview and impressions on the first annual Cyclone Welcome Weekend event, and I think that he may ask Chief Newton to join in. And I just want to share with the student government the partnership between Iowa State and the city is just absolutely spectacular. We just can't say enough positive things about administration, law enforcement. Dr. Winterstein and I really started talking about this, gosh, it was a year ago, after a student government and city council meeting, where we talked about some of the concerns that the senators expressed last year, and so that carried on all through this current year, starting in January. But the whole intent is to provide a safe environment for students to enjoy celebrating coming back into school. And so I think we do what they call a plus delta, what went well and what things can we do to improve going forward. And I think there may be some other administration from Iowa State that may want to weigh in as well too. So Chief Huff, if you want to just, if you got a microphone there, or if you want to come to the front and just share observations, thoughts, and what you've talked about and where we're going, and then maybe Chief Newton could augment that.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'll just give you a brief rundown. For us, the cyclone. They want him up front? Okay. Okay, I'll be up front. I'll give you just a brief rundown for the Ames Police Department. We have enhanced staffing for Cyclone Welcome Weekend beginning around 5 p.m. on Friday and starting to end around 4 a.m. on Sunday morning, just to give you an idea. Some of our observations were, first of all, it was cooler this year than it was last year. It was also a little bit rainy, and that actually led to a little bit of what we would consider a slower start to the event, where parties didn't really start to grow until later in the morning as compared to what we're used to. One of the things that we really found was the parking situation was greatly improved from the last few years. The ability to tow vehicles immediately for being illegally parked helped quite a bit. However, we only towed 32 vehicles, which is not many. That's actually fewer than some of our snow routes. And so I think the early warnings, social media warnings, the large signs that we had made and put up in that area probably contributed to fewer cars being towed. I don't think it contributed to any fewer people showing up. They just weren't illegally parked. So we found there was a lot of cars parked at the Hilton lot, and there were cars parked outside of the area that we designated as the area where cars could be towed. So the towing situation did contribute to, I think, a little safer environment without having cars parked on both sides of the street. So that was good. Overall, our calls for service were up this year from previous years, and that can be a couple of things. One, I'm not going to say that we weren't busy, because we were, but we also had more staff out this year than we did in previous years because we've had some staffing shortages that we've been dealing with. So we did have more officers working. They will definitely generate more calls if there's more officers. Also, the towing of vehicles creates a call as well. So just because the total number is up doesn't mean it was necessarily that much busier. In fact, I think because of the rain, it really did help us out a little bit. Last year, our biggest problems were in the 400 and 500 blocks of Welch Avenue, with large parties in the front part of those areas that actually melded into one large party that kind of almost took over the street. This year, we didn't have that. Our parties were our problem parties were in the 400 block of Hayward and Hunt Street, and they were all in the backyard as opposed to the front yard. One thing that our officers did observe was a great deal of public urination was taking place. I can't really explain that other than a large party, the facilities are not appropriate for 300-400 people, and so I think this is what happens. I wanted to point out a few of the challenges for us at the police department that Cyclone Welcome Weekend presents. Many of you may at least remember the concept of VISHA, if not remember VISHA. VISHA was a 2-day event for at least us that was 2 evenings, making it easier to staff for. This is actually harder to staff for because it literally goes from 5 p.m. Friday through 4 a.m. Sunday straight through. So that creates some challenges for us in getting appropriate staffing. We had a total of 64.25 hours of overtime shifts, which accounted for about just over $5,000 is what it costs us for the overtime to have officers available. That doesn't include everything. We had some supervisors that are not paid overtime that also put in 31 additional hours. We also had some charges that took place from printing the signs, the giant signs that said you may be towed, and that was almost $2,200 plus the time and effort to put all those signs up and take them down. So I think it's important to note those things as well. Overall, anecdotally, kind of what we heard was that this year's kind of unofficial events lacked some of the enthusiasm of past years, which is what we were actually hoping for. It'll be interesting to see next year what the difference might be. I think the cooler temperatures, the rain that happened about every 45 minutes through kind of mid part of the day probably contributed to that, but time will tell. I think the parking, the way we handled parking really did make a significant impact. We only wrote 3 of the nuisance parties with enhanced penalties. And so we didn't have to use that tool very often for the weekend, which we were also happy about. And we did have pretty good compliance when we found parties that were too large, and we went to speak with them. In many cases, they were able to take care of that problem on their own. In a few cases, obviously, we had to help them with that. We also found, and I think you'll probably hear this from Chief Newton as well, this is still a destination event where people are coming from out of town to attend that don't have good planning and are not really prepared very well. And so we still have lots of people that were roaming around with nowhere to stay with backpacks full of beer. So that's still a problem. We did hear a lot of folks came to town from the University of Iowa still for this event. So we're hoping to see the number of people coming from out of town reduce over time. Hopefully they'll stay at their university, and our event will continue with these official events that are well planned, well attended.
Questions you might have for Chief Huff? He does have another meeting he needs to go to, unless you want to stay through the end of this item.
Yeah, I'll be fine.
Okay,
Yep.
good. All right.
I mean, a lot of what Chief Huff said was the same for us. I'll add a few items. So for us, operations really started, Thursday into Friday with all the campus events that were pre-planned and really, I thought had great attendance, the Cyclone Welcome Weekend events that the team had planned. So our officers spent a lot of time with those events and working those. And then as we gradually went into Saturday, then we helped supplement Ames because most of the activity happens off campus, right, up into the neighborhoods and communities. So we had decided this year we would help supplement and help enforcement activities as we were requested or as was needed. We did have a lot of extra staff on. I would say this last year we had our citation numbers were higher, but once again that's the same thing that happened with Ames. We're almost fully staffed, or we're getting closer to fully staffed. So more officers, a lot of younger officers that are out there and are pretty energetic, which is needed, right? Because what we saw is 62.9% of the people that we had contact with that we cited and charged were not from Iowa State University, not from Ames, from other places within the state. And many of them that we talked to, I was out doing enforcement. Every year I like to try and be out there, talk with people, understand what's happening. And those that we talked to said, we heard this is the place to come. And then after we wrote them the ticket, they said Ames is lame. And that's the message that we want to get out there. We want Ames to be fun for all of you that are here that enjoy Ames, that we know because you enjoy Ames, you're going to treat things appropriately, right? Hopefully it wasn't our students urinating right into the streets or into the yards. I would like to believe that, right? That our students are here to do the right thing, and our community members are here to do the right things. But we heard that a number of times, and many of those that we had contact with, or some of those that we had contact with, were from the University of Iowa. And so we are working with them. Our student affairs folks worked with their team there, and anybody that we did charge from there, we made sure that information got passed on to their dean of students and other folks. A lot of the activity we were seeing was just people for some reason think that they can walk down the street carrying alcohol. That's still not legal in Ames. Majority of the contexts, that's the behaviors that we were seeing, or the urinating in public ended up getting our officers making contact with people and having conversations with them. I thought overall the event went well, but I think there's still some gaps and some improvement, and we would love to hear from students. What are some of your ideas that would help enhance and maybe convince some of the out-of-town folks not to come to Ames? And many of them didn't have places to go. They didn't have friends that went to school here, because that's what I sometimes hear from community members is, no, they're probably here visiting friends. Many of the cases, no, they had nobody that they knew here. They just heard this is the place to come. So, any questions?
Any comments from student affairs?
Come on, Dr. Younger.
Not to put you on the spot, but I will. I think as she's coming up too, maybe you could just talk about what you see going forward in terms of what might be changed and what strategies you might be talking about and how student input. 'Cause I think that's the other thing is we want to hear from students. I know one of the things I just want to piggyback on Chief Huff, and that was we heard students really complaining and on social media about this increased fines for large parties, and I hope you are encouraged that there's only 3 citations, and it's only after multiple visits, warnings and cautions, and then we don't want to do that. So it wasn't being abused. It was basically trying to try and provide safety for not only students, but also for those residents, in the neighborhood. Dr. Younger.
Great, thank you so much. First of all, I want to say thank you for the students who participated in some of the planning of this. As Mayor Hala mentioned, this has been an ongoing conversation, but the entire concept of Cyclone Welcome Weekend really didn't come to fruition until maybe the middle toward the end of the semester. And so it was hard to get a lot of student input and action over the summer, but myself, Chief Newton, our Dean of Students have advisory boards, and these were conversations that we had been having throughout the year about what we could do. And that's kind of how a lot of this came to be in conversations with you, the students, who said, well, the reason why we go out and we do these other things is because there's nothing else planned. Everything that's planned during that weekend is primarily through Destination Iowa State and for freshmen. And so if we had some other things that were planned, then maybe people would attend. And so that was what the attempt was to create other opportunities, not only just for new students, but for returning students as well. And so we saw outstanding turnout, as I've shared with student government leadership and others, this was the first time we were doing this. And so we really didn't know what to expect. I was pleased with the turnout. We had a variety of activities planned starting that Friday night, going all through Saturday. Attendance was high, engagement was high. People have been asking what we're doing again next year. My response is, pause for a second. But because we want to hear the feedback, and that's why I came this evening, is because it's helpful for us to hear what worked, what didn't work, what things we should consider for future events like this. As I mentioned, it is somewhat challenging because I think oftentimes as administrators, we plan events and just think people will show up. And so grateful for those folks on social media who really promoted Cyclone Welcome Weekend. We really did our best to try and engage with folks. Grateful to new student programs who were able to bring students from Destination Iowa State. And it really created an environment where our new students could also engage with our returning students. So overall, we were pleased. We have our own kind of list within the Division of Student Affairs with some of my staff and people who volunteered from all across the entire campus community with feedback, and this went well. We need to address these issues in the future. So as Mayor Hala mentioned, and as the Chiefs mentioned, we would really like to get some student input before we move forward with formal planning for next year.
Thank you. That's also I wanted to stress is that in January this year, we were looking at what could we do to try and control it. We knew we weren't going to enforce our way out of it. And honestly, this morphed into someone in Iowa State administration came up with a great idea of Cyclone Welcome Weekend. And as Dr. Younger said, it was towards the end of the semester, and we were all of a sudden, and I'll tell you what, people did an amazing job of marketing it and putting together, branding it, and trying to take a real positive approach. So if you think, well, why wasn't there much promotion? This was a very fluid situation, and we were trying to get this to work and be a way that was being celebratory, not being out there trying to kibosh everyone's weekend. So anyway, all right. So we want to hear from you. Exactly what Dr. Younger said. We don't want to be the quote sage on the stage or the authorities saying we're going to plan stuff for you. We did hear people say, well, why didn't you get more student feedback? This is your opportunity to start doing it, and we're all ears.
Yeah, we'll open the floor to questions and discussion. We'll start with Senator Anglican.
Hi, so is there any way you can throw events on Welcome Weekend in downtown Ames to kind of discourage the partying? Like there's a farmer's market on Saturday, but I think something like a small business fair on Sunday would definitely help increase that turnout there instead of at parties. It won't completely eliminate the parties, but I think that it will help kind of decrease the amount of people, and the issue is that they just get so big. I know that ISU and Dr. Younger does a lot of stuff for Welcome Weekend. I feel like that's a lot very targeted at freshmen, and I feel like something in downtown Ames will help split that crowd a bit and hopefully help make partying less.
Thanks for the comment. I will share too, the Chamber of Commerce was also part and parcel of the overall planning team, and that was something we talked about. We were trying to get some kind of bus transport to downtown area, but I think that's worth exploring further. But we probably want to find out what it is specifically that you believe would be attractive to students to come downtown. And we'd love to have you come downtown. We have an awesome downtown, and it's getting even better.
Yeah, so I feel like something that would be very attractive to students is like the farmer's market. I know there's a very big turnout for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you guys did like a small business fair or something recently, and I really appreciated that. That was a lot of fun. And the eco fair was also cool. I just feel like a lot of events that we can't get on campus in the city of Ames and the beautiful downtown would be great and would kind of encourage some turnout there. I yield.
I'm going to ask this question later, so we'll just kind of put a pin in it, but we want to find out, how do you get the word out to students on what's going on in the community? Because we find it used to be newspaper and radio, maybe TV, and now it's Facebook, Instagram. I mean, I hate to tell you guys this, but I'm not doing a TikTok video to try and get you guys to come downtown. Maybe the chief will, I don't know, but the point is, we just need to understand what it is, how we can get the message out, and that's something we can talk about more in terms of student engagement too.
Senator Keeler.
Yeah, so I guess I don't know how feasible this suggestion would be, but I know, Chief Newton, you had mentioned that a lot of the people that you had arrested were outside of Ames and had said that this was the place to come. So there's clearly a reputation, and somehow this is like getting out to people. So I'm wondering, is there a way that we can potentially find the sources of where this reputation is coming from, and then hopefully try to discourage people from kind of like promoting this as a party central city?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of that's possible. I think that there's a tricky balance, because when you try to do that, then people want to come and find out, why are you trying to do that, right? So you're trying to find that little bit of balance. I think we can make an impact by reaching out to the dean of students and the other folks from those other institutions where people are coming from, and have some really good conversations with them and have them work with their students, because they understand their students really well. And that's an approach we started to take this year. We probably need to increase that effort based on what we saw. And we personally, I know both of us as chiefs would prefer not to do any enforcement at all, not to have to do any enforcement, be out there just socializing with students and having a good time. I don't really particularly care to have to do that part of it on a weekend like that.
Yeah, thank you very much. I yield.
Speaker Mahoney.
So one of the things I was curious about, and I don't know if there's any, I suppose it would probably be anecdotal, but I was curious, what was sort of the overlap in audience between a lot of the activities offered with Cyclone Welcome Weekend and the 801 Day parties? Like, what were they effectively pulling students away from some of these parties that would otherwise, yeah.
Well, you know, I think it's hard to quantitatively state that. I will say at the Friday night event, when 801 was not taking place, we had over 4,000 students who showed up to the cookout. And so that was a huge turnout. And then on Saturday, when the rain started, we were unsure of who was going to show up at the goat breakfast. Even though we literally had baby goats, we thought that would be a pool, but we had no idea who was going to show up for that event. And when I got out there, there were hundreds and hundreds of people from our sorority and fraternity community who were lined up before I even got there to attend. And so it will be interesting. We're trying to figure out ways, as we mentioned earlier, how do we do a better job of marketing this? As I mentioned earlier, there was the partnership with New Student Program. So of course that brought in freshmen, but there were other people who were like, I just came for the yoga. Like, I heard you all were doing this and this is why I showed up today. But I don't have any quantitative data per se to figure out what that overlap was. But then it was quite obvious too. There were other events that were taking place. Later on in the evening, we had the bingo event and the hypnotist or whatever, and you could see people who were coming from the neighborhoods coming into the MU to attend that. So I think some people were trying to kill two birds with one stone.
Sort of another question I suppose I have, and this would probably be more for the chiefs. Are a lot of your like big party citations and that sort of thing being written more towards the beginning of the day, towards that 8:01 a.m., or is it more towards at night?
So for Cyclone Welcome Weekend, just to be clear, we do outreach leading up to that event. So we're trying to get the word out early. We literally go door to door with our partners from Iowa State to kind of explain what you can and can't do, kind of thing. Then the morning of, when we start to see some of these houses that look clearly like they're about to have a larger party, we're stopping out early again to talk to them again, try and bring that down, bring the temperature down on all that. So if a citation is written, it's usually a little bit later in the day, but we didn't have much into the evening, so that was a good thing. Now, part of it could be when you start at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, you're going to wear yourself out. So that's probably part of the reason. Now, when we normally write a nuisance party outside of Cyclone Welcome Weekend, it's usually in the evenings or late night. So this is a little bit different because of that.
And I do, a lot of our individual citations were earlier in the morning when you look at individuals. And that's the groups roaming around, not realizing that you shouldn't crack a beer and walk down the street drinking it, along with your cooler of 24 more.
Yeah, I suppose some of the reason I ask is that I'm in the fraternity community. I do partake in 801 day safely, obviously. But I don't notice that sort of double peak. People start in the morning, then the afternoon, it's calm down, take a nap, relax, and then at the evening times, people start up again. And so one of the things I'm kind of concerned with is the weather was genuinely somewhat non-conducive to having large outdoor parties, and so I noticed a lot of parties did go inside, and one of the things I'm worried about for next year essentially is if we're going to see a large resurgence, is all of a sudden, hey, it's nice out, boom, we have a huge outdoor party again, and we're back to kind of the same problems. So I'm wondering how much the weather being just not great this year really did play into us having a pretty good turnout, I think, for what we wanted 801 Day to look like. So that's what I was kind of worried about or curious about.
Yeah, and I think we would agree the weather probably contributed to things being a little bit slower to build. It really did seem like there was just as many people out this year as there were last year. They were just distributed a little bit differently. And the other thing I'll tell you is a lot of the times when we went somewhere and had a good discussion with the people that lived there, they were actually happy to see us because things had gotten out of control. And it was a lot of people they don't know going back to this. The contributing issues are the people coming in from out of town. So even the people having the party, their intent might have been to have 10 or 20 of their friends over, which is fine. And then suddenly it's 100 people and they only know 10 or 12 of them. And so they were happy to see us and happy to help kind of get those people going. But again, if they're not from Ames, they don't have anywhere to go. And that's the problem we're having.
And I would say I was surprised at the number as I patrolled the neighborhood of houses that would actually grab me and ask me, can you come talk to these people and just get them out of my house? And we would call our partners in Ames over so that they could document those locations and stuff. But I was impressed by people realizing, hey, this got out of control and now I need help. And they were asking for help earlier than we have seen in some past times.
Senator Dre.
All right, hi guys. So I've noticed a lot on Welcome Weekend that these, like the largest parties that are happening are usually in association with people that are in the fraternal community and hosting at their off-campus properties. And so I was just wondering, and Senator Kamstra, maybe you can help with this too, if we could reach out to the Greek community and maybe advertise through them before the day and, you know, advertise rules like not carrying cans openly and things like that.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. And to your point, we have tried to engage with the sorority and fraternity community to do just that. And I think that that's part of the reason why we saw some of them come over and participate in our event earlier that morning, and some of them purposely scheduled. I think that I'm going to mess up, and I'm not going to call it right. It was like new member recruitment or something. You know what I'm talking about, sir?
Yes.
They scheduled some of their events that morning so that many of them wouldn't necessarily engage. But to Speaker Mahoney's point, what you do see is that if I missed it in the morning, I can take a nap and you have this resurgence later on. But to specifically answer your question, I think that we are going to have to do more with engaging with that community. We started that practice a little bit, but I think that there's more work that we could probably do in that area.
All right, thank you guys.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I will say that we call it the Risk Management Symposium on Saturday morning, which we've had for the past several years, has been one of our greatest successes in educating our younger members. It's required for every single new member, whether they sign during formal recruitment or during the summer, or even in high school we have some members sign. Every single new member is required to go, and it starts at 8 a.m. on Saturday morning, and it's actually scheduled to 3, but usually they get done around 1 or 2. We've seen a lot of success with that. I will say the pancake breakfast was, when I reached out for feedback, was one of the largest successes we had. I am also a chapter president, so we at my chapter and other chapters were kind of unaware of a lot of the Camp Iowa State stuff. Maybe that's our own fault for not checking our emails. I don't know. But yeah, I know going forward, one of my biggest ideas that I have written down right here is to increase our meetings, because my chapter brought in Officer Dillock from the Ames PD, and it was one of the best conversations we've had with all of our members about things like, what can I do? I can't open carry, fun fact. That was a big point that Officer Dillock made, was that is illegal in the city of Ames, and also just best practices, how to interact with police officers and stuff like that, how to have a conversation. And one of his big talking points that resounded with me especially was, working with them at the end of the day is going to be safer and better for all of our members, and that's what I want to see. And when I get into my point of questioning, I'll bring up as well. So,
Yeah, I think that's great, especially the idea of increasing awareness just like personally with you guys and making it not a students versus law enforcement. So, all right, I yield.
Moving forward, we're having a great conversation, and we still have a lot of people, so I will ask senators just to limit yourself to one question, because we are almost already on our 30 minutes. But Senator Becker.
Yes, so thanks for coming out tonight, guys. One comment I had is you're saying we have a lot of issues with public urination. Is there a way you could incentivize providing bathrooms or like a porta potty? Because I know much more people would rather spend, $50 per party thrower on a porta potty than on a fine that's on their record for, so many years. So is that a possibility?
We're going to add that to the list.
Sounds great.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Senator Kamstra.
I'm up again. Limit myself to one question. First, I want to talk about my idea. I personally organized a meeting with one of the other house owners on Hunt Street, between my senior members that live on Hunt Street and their senior members that live on Hunt Street, and collaborated to prevent the out-of-towners from destroying what our seniors wanted to partake in that afternoon. And putting up orange fencing. I don't know if you guys may have remembered the orange fencing, but that was one of our largest successes. I know there was some frustration with our neighbors that I collaborated with, but one of the things that was most successful from that was, one, that chapter had nothing planned, and my chapter did, and being able to give them our ideas and stuff like that, but also creating a meeting between all chapters that we can share ideas with, and then you guys is one of the biggest ideas that I think would keep our members in the interfraternity community and also members of the Ames community and campus town safest. My question is regarding DIS and Camp Iowa State. We see a lot of retention issues. We hear a lot of students that are just going for the DIS bag and then not coming back, especially within like chapters and stuff like that. Do you guys have any ideas of what you're going to do in the future to prevent like this lack of retention and like increase like more stuff over the Saturday afternoon and stuff like that?
Did you look at my calendar next week? We are actually having a meeting with Destination Iowa State staffers next week to discuss that, because we saw it as well. Okay. We saw people, I'm the MC for the big event for Destination Iowa State on Thursday, and there's 5,000-6,000 people here. And then the next morning they have an event for Destination Iowa State, and there's like 3,000 people. And then by Friday and Saturday, there's like 500-600 people. And so we want to do a better job of collaborating. One of the things that we didn't want to do, and a lot of people asked us this question, is we didn't want to pull people away from Destination Iowa State. There's some things that first year students need to know and that they learn and they participate in. And so one of our goals for next year is to figure out how we can do a better job of collaborating, but also planning, so that we're not going to be pulling them away from certain events. Or, Saturday morning was a perfect example. You talked about the pancake breakfast. And so we've got inflatables, we've got games, we've got all this stuff on Central Campus. And there's folks with their Destination Iowa State backpacks walking in the MU, and they're like, well, I'm gonna go over here because it looks like something's happening over there. Right. And then they didn't go to their events that were already scheduled. So we are trying to figure that out and figure out, best ways to not pull people away from other events, but also have some events where it's joint, because that's what we really were shooting for, was particularly not just reaching out to the freshmen, but to the returning students as well.
And then I have one final comment, not question, on the ordinances in place. Most IFC chapters were happy to see the parking ordinance because it allowed for emergency vehicles to come in and stuff like that. That was a good one. The other ordinance regarding fines obviously was met with a little bit of hostility from our homeowners and stuff like that, understandably, but they understood the message behind it, preventing those from out of town coming in. So I don't want to see that go away. But with that, I saw publicity come from that because of the news articles written, and then all of a sudden I was getting messages from my friends back in Northwest Iowa who had never even heard of 801 Day, now being like, why are they like gonna fine you $1,500? So I'm like just saying, going forward, I think that the ordinances were good this year, but taking a stance of not trying to prevent like celebrating on Saturday, coming back to Ames, but like taking a stance of celebrating coming back to Ames, if that makes sense. Like not preventing something from happening, because that creates hostility, kind of like you were saying, of if we're trying to prevent something, why are they trying to prevent it? Or instead of encouraging and using the cyclone spirit to move forward. So.
On one of the points that you had made in the beginning about the collaboration with law enforcement, both of our agencies are happy to come in, talk to homeowners, talk to students about how to party smart, how to party safely, how to do that, because that is the goal, right? I think you hit it, where having a safe event is better than the other alternatives, right? And so collaborating will be key, and that's what we're about, both of our organizations. So anytime, we'd prefer to do that.
Senator Mays.
Is this work? Okay, I've never used this microphone before. So I wasn't at 801 or anything, so I'm not sure what the answer would be to either of these questions. They go in hand. I was kind of wondering, so last semester, I remember at this meeting, we had discussed the potential of having like booze or things like that spread around like the bigger party houses and areas where parties occur, which would have like water and food and stuff to give to students to kind of promote safety and health and stuff. I was wondering if those were implemented, and also with that, I was wondering if you guys had any record of how many people were hospitalized, picked up by ambulance, or how many times ambulances were called to help deal with people who were drinking a little too much or got injured that day. Just kind of curious about that.
We can get that. I don't have it. I don't know if you brought it with, but we had a number of public intox. I will say that the numbers felt down from the previous year, and I didn't get the complaints from the hospital that I got the previous year. But we do still know that there were people that went. And so we can pull some of that and get it over to student government.
And to your point, Senator Mays, those are the discussions that we're having with the Dean of Students Office now. That was kind of like preliminary conversations about, and that's why you saw a lot of people who were walking around wearing our Party Smart fanny packs, which I didn't know were back in style. I digress. But lots of people were coming to get it because it was information on how to party smart. You know, we recognize I'm not that much older than y'all. I know y'all are gonna party. I'm well aware of that. But we want you to do it in a safe way. We don't want you all to get hurt. That's what we care about. That's what we're concerned about. And so it's really trying to promote ways in which we can set some parameters, but also create opportunities for students to enjoy, as he mentioned earlier, coming back to Ames.
Senator Slade.
All right, hi. So I know you said there was a lot of success with the no parking area signs, but there were a lot of extra time and resources spent on those. Would it be worth considering like a volunteer opportunity or a student committee to help you guys put those up in those neighborhoods? Because I know that people would be willing to help out with that, and it obviously did its job.
Yes, please. That'd be great. We'd love to partner with any student organization to help us. One of the issues is it's not something that can be done over the course of a week, because it really has to be done just the night before to put those signs up, or else they'll be out of alignment with the regulations. So I think that's a great opportunity to partner, and we'd love to do it.
Yeah, that sounds good, and that's definitely something we can explore, so thank you, and I yield.
I know there are still a few more placards up, but just for the sake of time, we are going to move on to our next topic of mental health.
Thank you, Chiefs, and Dr. Younger, appreciate your feedback. And while Deb is coming up, I just want to mention too is that one of our goals is safety for students, but there are 30,000 other people that live in Ames, and we have, not this past September, but a year ago, for the first time that I can remember, we actually had residents coming and complaining to City Council about the parties, and so we were also trying to balance how can we go ahead and respect and provide safety for and quality of life for the residents. So I think that you saw and heard great partnership with between Iowa State and the City of Ames, and it's going to continue, and some great ideas. All right, on mental health, Deb Shildroth is one of our city assistant city managers, and I've asked her, she's one of our key staff members helping lead the charge on community conversations regarding mental health, and so I've asked her to kind of give an update, and then I think Brian and Aaron are here too. They might jump in then too and just kind of talk about what they're seeing on campus. City Council has been very supportive of and understands that this is a growing need in our community, not only on campus, but in our community in general and in the K-12. And so, Dev, you want to just maybe talk about the community conversations, and then we'll invite Aaron and Brian to come up, or anyone else from Student Health.
All right, great. Thank you. Hello, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity to talk about a very important topic here in our community. And I think as a result of moving through the pandemic, the need for mental health care has really been elevated. And it's one of my passions, it's a background of mine, and so to be able to hear people talk about it and talk about the need for services is really refreshing, because I do think it's important that we discuss this topic and help remove the stigma that's related to it, because people need help in a variety of ways, and I think they should be able to have access to that kind of help. And that's one of the reasons why this is very important to City Council. It's under one of their values of valuing a fun and vibrant community that will attract and retain people. We're concerned about mental and physical health of our residents, and students are residents of this community. And so to kick this off, Council, I'm going to go back to spring of 2021 when they did their first mental health initiative. They put dollars towards offering training in mental health first aid. And so if you haven't had that training and you're interested in it, let us know. We have Julie Saxton, who's the mental health advocate in the police department, who is trained to provide that training. She works very closely with Kinsey and another staff person through the Iowa State Police Department in providing that training. In the summer of 2021, we trained over 110 individuals in mental health first aid training. We had 3 sessions, and we're willing to continue offering that training to anyone who is interested in it. It can be open to organizations, to groups, just a variety of entities. So we then continued with community conversations, and City Council is interested in programs and initiatives, not only within city departments like Parks and Recreation and the library, but also partnering with other groups in the community to offer those initiatives and bring the expertise in to provide those services. So we have a series of 6 community conversations on mental health, and we had our first one about 3 weeks ago, and it was on a tough topic. It was on suicide. And we had a couple of individuals, parents, who talked about their experiences in losing a child to suicide within the past year. And then we had other presentations that talked about support and services that are out there to help families going through that particular problem or how to help educate individuals on recognizing what signs of suicide might be. And so we're moving into our next community conversation topic, which is going to occur on Monday, November 7th. And the topic of that evening will be on mental health education and resources. And we are partnering with Iowa State Student Health and Wellness to present information they have on an evaluation or assessment that they did about a year ago. We're also having Nicole Patton, who's the associate principal for Ames High School, and she's going to talk about the efforts that are occurring within the Ames Community School District to help students in the school district. Mary Greeley Medical Center is going to talk about their new crisis intervention program called ARCH, and they're also going to talk about their subacute care unit that's available for people who are needing more intense services to address crises. And then we're also going to have our very own Julie Saxton and other individuals present on mental health first aid, ASSIST, which is applied skills intervention suicide training, and they'll also talk about other kinds of trainings that are out there. So it'll be a very information-packed meeting. It starts at 6:30 p.m. until 8:30 p.m., and we're holding it at the water treatment plant, which is out on East 13th Street. Our first community conversation was held in the auditorium at the library, and that's where future community conversations will be held, but it's just not available the night of November 7th. So we hope that you all can attend. It's free and open to the public. I do have flyers, hot off the press, tonight that I will leave here. There's 50 of them, so take what you need. If you need more, let me know. We do want to get this advertised widely. The other community conversations that we have lined up through May include resiliency, which will be held on January 31st, drug use and abuse on March 7th, civility and conversations will be held on April 4th, and then we'll wrap up these community conversations on May 2nd with navigating mental health and substance use systems. So more information will be coming out about each and every one of these. As Mayor said, we have an internal planning group that's kind of driving the planning efforts, but we are opening it up to other groups as we bring in expertise to talk about these different kinds of topics. We want to make them as informative and robust as possible. So I will stop.
Deb, I just mentioned too about all these conversations are taped. And
Yes.
And the first one is, I believe, now posted on the City of Ames website.
Yes.
And we're trying to create a robust page on mental health, so there's resource links going to be there in the future. But then we do have these sessions, and this is going to come fresh to Deb. I don't know if we can try and do a Facebook Live. In May of 2021, we did do a Facebook Live broadcast, and we recognize and we apologize. Talking to President Ludwig and Bryce last week, it's like they're saying, well, where is the water treatment plant? It's like, oh gosh, we just, the location probably isn't ideal, but it was just too late to change it because it's already been publicized. But if we can get it, broadcast live, then people can, watch it, online. And we know we had Facebook viewers, last time. So
yes,
but,
yes.
It will be taped and archived, so you can look at it if you can't make it.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up, Mayor. And it's on cityofames.org. It's on our website under livability. It's our mental health page. And the session that was taped in May of 2021 when we kicked off the wellness initiative then is also posted on the website. So we'll continue to keep those posted if you want to take a look at those and share that information with others. I was interviewed by Nicole Hesk with the Iowa State Daily a week ago, last Friday, about the community conversations. And one of the questions that she had for me was, why would students be interested in this? Why would students get involved? And I said, well, because mental health touches each and every one of us at a different point in our life or at many points in our life. And so whether it's you yourself who has a mental health need or you have a family member, or maybe it's a friend. It's information that I think could be invaluable. Maybe you don't need the information now, but you might need it in the future. So I think it's just one of those things that each and every one of us will experience a time in our life where we're going to need some extra help. Nothing wrong with that. There's plenty of help out there, so it's just getting aware of the facts and the resources that are available. So with that, I can open it for questions, or I can invite Eric and
maybe get Brian and Aaron to come up,
Yep.
and then like the last time you could stay up there, and then I just want to commend Aaron and Brian. We went to a presentation last week. It was Get to Know Your Iowa State Student. Is that the official title, Aaron, or something like that? Just an outstanding presentation that kind of gave an understanding of where we're at, and there's some staggering statistics on mental health that maybe you want to just touch on, but you guys are doing great work, and it's another example of working together to try and really meet the needs of all the people in our community. It's not just segmented or siloed, it's everybody. So.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Hala, and thank you, Deb. Hi, everyone. Erin Baldwin, she, her, hers. I'm the Associate Vice President for Student Health and Wellness and the Director of the Student Health Center. So Student Health and Wellness consists of recreation services, student wellness, student counseling, and the Teelan Student Health Center. And really what our goal is to try to focus on well-being holistically, realizing that everybody has different needs. And we've been really focused on partnering with the city and thinking about how we can change the culture on campus and in the community to better support well-being and mental health specifically. So we've done a lot of data gathering. We do the National College Health Assessment that some of you may have participated in the past, Healthy Mind Studies, and we then did a large number of student focus groups. And I know Brian has to leave here in a couple minutes, so I'm going to let Brian come forward and share some information.
Thanks, everyone. Brian Vanderheiden, he, him, they, them pronouns. I'm the director in student wellness. So we're actually in the process of wrapping up a pretty robust health and wellness needs assessment at Iowa State. So it includes a quantitative analysis, a qualitative analysis, and then what we call an environmental scan. So that part of that is looking at 181 best practices that are connected on a variety of topics like basic needs, mental health, substance use, power-based violence, and others. And really looking at those best practices in comparison to Iowa State. So when we think about really a comprehensive approach, and we think about, what are we doing at Iowa State, where are some opportunities for improvements, we can look at that and kind of compare ourselves and allow us to come forward with some recommendations and some next steps. So that's what we're in the process of doing now. Our hope is by the end of the semester, we'll have that full report available. We'll absolutely share that. Would love to have conversations with student government once we have that available. So like I said, part of the quantitative analysis was looking at all of our existing data that we have on campus. Part of that is our National College Health Assessment, which we participated in last year. It's the first time that we are able to disaggregate as well by student population. So we have some really good data, and particularly across different student populations, which is really important that we do that to examine differences and disparities that we see across some of our student populations. We also conducted a series of focus groups. It was the largest focus group study we have done on health and well-being. We had 27 focus groups with over 200 students that participated. We did that in the spring semester. So both the National College Health Assessment and the focus group summary are publicly available. They're on our website. So if you want to review the results and the summary and recommendations that we have from that, those are publicly available for folks. So you can review that. And part of the work of what we're really trying to do with all of this is thinking about how do we continue to build our broader health promotion infrastructure. So we have a lot of resources, which is really important when we think about mental health. I would say broadly as a society, and also here at Iowa State, I think where we lack is really in the preventative and proactive measures and thinking about how are we building an infrastructure and a culture around well-being, right? How are we proactively working on this and addressing it? How are we embedding it into everything that we do? How are we embedding it into our systems, our policies, our practices? Because that's really what's going to transform our environment and really help with improving health and well-being long-term. So a lot of what we're doing right now is thinking about collecting the data so that we can really work to build that broader infrastructure. And that is, as Mayor Hala was saying, is really important that the community and ISU are working together collaboratively on that, because it really takes all of us. Our students not only live, learn, and work on campus, they also live, learn, and work off campus. So part of that is thinking about how do we really bridge and continue those collaborations and partnerships. So we're really excited about the ongoing community conversations, and we're excited that that this needs assessment we think will really help to drive forward a lot of strategic action going forward. So like I said, I apologize, I have to head out, but Aaron will continue to be here to help answer questions around a lot of that. So thanks for your time.
Thanks, Brian. Aaron, one of the statistics that was brought up in the last week was just the amount of depression there is, which obviously is a mental health issue. And if you just comment on that, and then also one of the things that struck me that what Brian shared in a previous meeting that we had was just the importance of community as being a backbone. And if you don't have strong community, you can do all the different assistance, but it's not going to really be helpful. And I just want to comment. I just absolutely love and just being proactive is so important. We have to deal with the after effects. That's a real need. But we would love to eliminate the need for mental health first aid training because we have such strong community and healthy living, which I think you're really trying to do. And so I think it's you can maybe just comment on the depression, and then also the community, what you're trying to accomplish, and the value that's going to bring.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks to all the students that participated in the focus groups or participated in the surveys when they came out. Shout out to Charlotte, too, because she's been a great partner to work with as we think about focusing on student health and wellness. Yes, I don't remember all the stats off the top of my head, but if you look at that National College Health Assessment data, depression, anxiety, stress is common. We think we all deal with it in our daily lives. So again, trying to think about larger infrastructure. How do we support those needs? How do we support belonging and connection for students on campus and in the community too?
All right, so that was a giant brain dump. So would entertain questions, and if you have ideas or thoughts or things you found that you would like to suggest us to consider, we're all ears because we're in this together.
Yeah, we'll start the conversation with Speaker Mahoney.
So I will kind of throw in a hat or a little bit of a force behind the mental health first aid training. That was a project I sort of piloted a little bit with on campus last year. I think we ended up training 15 or 20 people, and I think it went really well. I would love to continue to see it happen. It's not something I can personally push for this year. I'm hoping somebody will pick up the project a little bit. So anyone is interested in doing that, please feel free to talk to me. I do think it's a great idea. I know it's been talked about with Charlotte and talked about with, I think Senator Kuehler has also been interested in it, and kind of continuing to push for that and more partnership with the city in that front. I know one of the other things I've been talking about doing, and I would be interested in a partnership with the city on this, is sort of a more university level committee on mental health. I know there's a lot of different departments and a lot of different organizations working on a lot of different things and kind of overlap, stepping on each other's toes, sharing resources. And when you do have some sort of struggle, it's really confusing who to turn to. And so there's a lack of sort of centralization in that. And as the city is a huge partner in a lot of our resources that we do use as students is outside of this city, I think there would be partnership there as well to have continuing conversations about what we can do to sort of make it easier to access these resources that do exist but are underutilized in the most part.
I just want to say, love that idea. We had a campus mental health task force, but I think the idea of a city partnership on that is fantastic. And to your point on mental health training, we have question, persuade, refer on campus now, which you may have heard about before. It takes an hour to do that training. I know we've talked about, could we partner with student government? So any way that we can push that out would be great.
Yeah, admittedly, I've been meaning to reach out to all of you about it.
Yep. Senator Thornton.
So I think it's really important that we address the problems that are contributing to low mental health instead of just treating the symptoms. And two problems that I really think are affecting students as well as the general population of our city would be low pay versus the high costs, as well as the lease gap, the rental problems that we face. In terms of the low pay, students make up half of Ames population for over 3/4 of that year. And that's a high workforce. When they are disenfranchised due to the low pay and the high stress of many class hours, their mental health will take a dip. Treating the symptoms of mental health with workshops is not going to solve the problem long term. A living wage in our county is $15 an hour. Many city and school jobs do not pay this rate. 7 of the 12 jobs posted right now to the city government website are not paying $15 an hour. They are paying less than that. And you can just Google City of Ames jobs to find this. ISU dining pays $13 an hour. The ISU library is paying $10 an hour. Those are the jobs that employ most of our students. This is not going to be enough to get us through the oncoming years. This is what contributes significantly to mental health. When you cannot pay your bills, when you cannot afford to feed yourself, this taxes people. The rental gap, that lease issue, was talked about last year. It's not on the agenda this year, and I would like to know what is going on with that problem. ISU contributes to this because the lease is for on-campus housing. The lease starts the weekend before classes begin. But if you are coming from a different place on campus, you're not continuing your on-campus housing to on-campus housing, you're coming from off-campus to moving on campus, you typically end your lease at the end of July. So you still have that lease gap. Just like most other places off campus, you have a lease that ends in July. You start a new place, typically first few days into August or halfway through August. We still have that lease gap issue to talk about. I would like to know what the city is going to be doing to consider raising city job pay raise, and what the city is going to be doing about the lease gap.
Can we put a pin in that and we have an open discussion time yet today and come back to that so we can stay on the mental health? I understand what you're saying.
I actually think that those contribute highly to mental health because as someone who's deeply affected by the lease gap multiple times, being homeless for a few days, having to couch surf, contributes greatly to people's mental health. So I would prefer that since it's on topic for mental health, that it stays here.
Okay.
And pay also greatly affects people's mental health. So again, respectfully, I think it should stay here.
Okay. Council members, anyone having input on we've talked about this at every meeting on lease gap, and open the floor. You've heard me speak before about this. I spoke last time about it, but I'm going to see if council wants to address it before I offer my comments. Brahman?
Well, I would just mention we're pretty limited in what we can do in terms of forcing any solution to the lease gap. I think the best solution would be to do a better job maybe of communicating to landlords and people who are renting the issue and the effect it's having. But the state doesn't allow us like to ban them or to require that a lease start at a certain time. So our hands are tied in terms of what we can force property owners to do, but we could get them in for conversations about the topic. But it's tricky. I think the leases, to sign a lease, the deadline has moved every year. It's gotten earlier and earlier where you're expected to sign leases by landlords, so now they're having people sign even, a year in advance to be able to keep the same place and things like that. And that, I think that is challenging. But I don't know that the city has a lot of legislative power in that regard. So the best we could do is foster communications with realtor associations or that kind of thing, rental associations. And the Iowa State lease gap, I don't know. The city couldn't do much, but that's Iowa State's.
Others? Rachel, did you want to comment on it?
Yeah, so, sorry. I can comment on the wage piece of it a little bit. A couple of years back, the Iowa legislature banned counties and cities from enacting a minimum wage that was above the state's. So this actually got overturned in a couple of counties in eastern Iowa. So we couldn't do something like that. We don't have the power to do that as a legislative body within the city. We do have the power to increase wages for, our City of Ames posted jobs. Iowa State would have power over their posted jobs. But I do agree that making a living wage definitely contributes to better health outcomes and better mental health outcomes. So I think that's something that we definitely need to look into more, how our city is meeting those needs of our community members.
Tim, Anita, do you have any input? Gloria?
So I guess I would say regarding the salaries, I agree with what Rachel has said, but there's also the fact that the city council is a policy-making body, and we leave the running of the city to our professional staff. So I think that you've just given input to our city manager and our assistant city managers on the need to consider these sorts of wage increases. And I would hope that they are taking that into consideration in the future. But council typically does not involve itself in that sort of thing because that's not our lane for decision making. But thank you for considering that, because I know my students are experiencing those same kinds of stressors, and it is demoralizing to say the least for many of them. So thank you.
Tim, anything you want to add, or Nita? No?
Mayor, can I add that the lease gap was one of the issues that was discussed. So we have a commission called the Campus and Community Commission, and that is made up, students are a part of that, as well as other representatives around the community. And our topic was relationships with landlords. And we had surveys, we had commission members present at residence fairs that were held here on campus. And although not all property management companies or landlords responded to our surveys or talked to us about the issues we were trying to address, there were a good number of them that did. And when it came to the lease gap issue, what the landlords who were participating and responding to our surveys said is that if it was discussed with them ahead of time, they would try to make accommodations to allow people to stay in the apartment or move into their next apartment earlier. There would be a cost associated with that, but they would try to work with the tenant on bridging that so that there wouldn't be that period of homelessness where people had to look elsewhere to stay. And I don't know the campus piece of it quite as well, but Pete England is on our committee, and he said that the dorms do provide a place for people to stay during that period of time, but maybe that's getting back to where maybe they're closed because they're cleaning and getting ready for students to move in. So there is that week or so time that they're not available. But Pete had said that that was an option if students were needing a temporary location. So that's what we talked about a year and a half ago when we were discussing the tenant landlord issues with the Campus and Community Commission. In terms of the jobs that are posted online, I know several of them are through our Parks and Recreation Department, which are positions that are helping maybe with gymnastics, dance class, maybe helping out at the ice arena. A lot of those are part-time, temporary types of positions, and so they are paying a little bit lower than our permanent salaried positions, but point taken, and we'll be sure to include that information as we discuss upcoming wages.
And you asked specifically, what are we going to do about it? I can share with you, in 2018, this council spent hundreds of hours talking about rental ordinances. We passed a rental ordinance, and in 2019, all that work went up in smoke because the legislature basically told us that you can't do that. And then we had another issue that we were working on, And they countered on that one as well too, and the realtors essentially lobbied and got the legislature to turn it over. So even if council wanted to tackle something to require landlords to do something, I can almost guarantee you it's going to be turned over at the legislature. And so what I shared before is that as hard as it is to be frank and blunt, it's a contract that you have with between two private parties, students and landlords, and the city is not part and parcel or party to that lease agreement. We're sympathetic to it, we understand it, but to Deb's point, it was referred to the Campus Community Commission, and they spent a lot of time, working on it. I'm sad to hear that it does cause stress. I understand it, but this is something that I do not believe that City Council has the power or ability to come in and legislate something. So I better tell you straight up what I believe the situation is, and promise you something, and then just basically blow it off.
Senator Keeler.
So I guess I love all of the initiatives that you guys are putting on. I think they're great. But I think we should discuss one of the biggest problems that any sort of initiative faces, whether it's mental health, whether it's something else, and I think the issue is outreach. So how are we getting this message to students? How are we getting them to, I guess, convince them that we should destigmatize mental health? So I guess I'm just wondering what you guys are doing to hopefully get out the word.
Good question, and it's something that we wrestle with, getting information out all of the time. So we do use a variety of forms. We use our social media platforms, so Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We use our website. We use print material, press releases, radio, and opportunities like this where we can talk to people directly about it. We're always open to other ideas and getting the information out, because we know everybody hears or uses a different source for receiving the information, and it's gotten complicated. Technology is really great. We try our best at being great at it, but we're open to other types of suggestions that you may have. But that's what we've been using, and we definitely, I think, having the partnership with Erin and her staff to help get the word out, especially in the mental health topics, hopefully has been successful. We are this time also doing posters, and we're trying to place those in businesses and use the chamber to help us get the word out as well. But again, we're open to suggestions.
Actually, I think I do have a suggestion, and yeah, outreach is tough. We wouldn't be having this conversation if it was easy. But I guess my suggestion is similar to what we did with the Party Smart campaign, where we had the ISU PD out with us. We were playing lawn games with them. And I felt it was a very good event to kind of break down that barrier between police and students. So I guess I'm wondering if you guys would be open to maybe a sort of similar outreach event. I don't think it'd be exactly the same. This is just kind of an idea, but sort of partnering with student groups like the Committee on Health and Wellness or anyone else that might be interested for outreach purposes. I guess for
yes.
No, I think that's great. Feedback. Student Health and Wellness has actually been part of the Party Smart campaign with ISU PD too, and I think that's what we want to continue to do, is work with students and student groups. Our peer wellness educators is one of the things that we do, because we realize you may want to hear from professionals, but you all want to hear from a peer too. So trying to use our students to help us get that message out and share that information. And then, of course, all of the different avenues that Deb mentioned too, but would love your feedback too. I think that's a great idea of a similar event. We've heard good feedback about the recent events around Party Smart and how we do those things.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know you guys have been a part of the events, which has made it great, but I guess I'm just wondering if anyone from the city would also be interested in kind of attending any of those events as well.
Yeah, I think we certainly can take that under consideration. As we're talking about this, a question came to mind in terms of outreach. There is a nonprofit here in Ames called NAMI of Central Iowa, and they offer education, advocacy, and support to individuals experiencing mental health issues as well as family members. And I thought that they had a presence on campus. I thought maybe they were co-located with another student organization to at least bring the information out to students that the main NAMI office was providing. And I'm looking at faces, and it doesn't look like that might be the case. So
Well, I know that there was phenomenal attendance to the Mental Health Expo.
It is. There is a presence on campus.
Okay.
It's like a club that you can join.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And the Mental Health Expo, I think, really helped bring together a lot of the providers to try, and there's a lot of people here, you know, at the union, at the different booths as well too. But I think that we need to know how can we reach and communicate, you know, better. And so I think I wrote it down as an opportunity to talk to Aaron and see what else we can do.
Thank you for that. I yield.
We'll have our final question back with Director Malowski.
Hello. Over here, sorry. So my question, I was just wondering, do you have specific initiatives? And if not, do you have plans related to quote unquote, like marginalized groups or like underrepresented groups within Ames?
So tied in with mental health or just in general for mental health? So cultural competency and recognizing individual needs of each person is something that is an underpinning of the initiatives that we're taking. We would like more input on that. I think we can get better at it and need to get better at it. So suggestions that you would have around that, we are open to hearing about those. I think it's really important. Engagement in general is very important to the city, whether it's related to mental health or other kinds of services that we're providing. We're currently working with Community and Regional Planning Group, Dr. Alinka Poplin's group on Play Ames, which is a specific engagement in the marginalized communities and areas around the Ames community. And I know they're doing different pop-up events and have different things scheduled. And we're trying to glean information that's coming out of that particular initiative to see what we can be doing better, what we can change in policies and procedures and approaches and those kinds of things.
So just to reiterate, there is no specific initiative related to marginalized or underrepresented groups then?
No specific initiative,
Okay.
but we're trying to pull that into the initiatives that we are offering.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
That'd be good for us to refer to our Human Relations Commission, which is really endeavoring to reach out to all different groups in the community, which would include, you know, underrepresented and marginalized. So we could bring this up to them as a topic to discuss in their group, and what can we do. That's a good idea to bring them in.
Yes, and there is a student government representative on the Ames Human Relations Commission, and we meet tomorrow evening, so great timing.
Sorry, I just want to add one more thing. I would really like to put an emphasis on that, just because if you look at the studies and statistics, like usually like marginalized or underrepresented groups are even more impacted by mental health. Yeah. So that I definitely think is something that should be taken a look at and advocated for in the future.
Thank you.
All right, thank you everyone for that discussion on mental health. For the next 15 minutes, we will talk on the topic of student engagement with the City of Ames.
All right, so I'm going to ask Brian Phillips, the other assistant city manager, to come up and talk about. We mentioned one of the questions was how can students report like a pothole or dangerous situation or, you know, maintenance issues? And actually, the City of Ames does have an app called Ames on the Go, and I don't know if we're going to be able to get this linked and show it or not, but if we can, let's do it. And Brian, I'll let you talk through it, and then we're gonna talk about some other opportunities.
All right, bear with me just a moment. All right, I'm Brian Phillips. I'm the other assistant city manager. So I was asked to talk briefly about Ames on the Go. This is an application that the city has been using for about the past 5 years. Ames on the Go allows anybody in the community to let the city know about issues that you may be experiencing in the community, whether that's related to potholes, sidewalk repair, traffic signals that aren't working properly, parks and recreation issues, graffiti, things of that nature. The way it works, you can find it in the App Store. We have a version for iPhone and for Android, and it's location-based. So when you get to the app, this is the home screen that you see. We have links. These links just take you to pages on the city's website with information about events that we have on our city calendar, maps within the community, information about construction updates, information about trash, recycling, jobs, and then the city's feeds for Facebook and Twitter. And then also Park Mobile, which is an application you can use to pay for parking meters rather than plugging the meter with a coin. So if you get into the app and let's say you're in a particular neighborhood and you have an issue, you can go to the map and drop a pin where you're experiencing the issue, describe the issue, take a picture of it, and upload that. And so this is what it looks like. We can go, let's say, to this neighborhood. So this person over here has indicated that a city's tree was taken down and there's a bunch of sawdust in the gutter. There's a concern about the fact that rain's coming and it might clog the storm drain. So when we get these notifications, they're categorized, they go to the appropriate city staff member to take care of. We generally are able to at least acknowledge back to the person that we have received the issue and that we're routing it to the correct person within, most of the time within the hour, but generally within about a half a day. And then typically the issue itself will be resolved within about 2 days, depending on the nature of the issue. Most issues, like a pothole, might be about a day for us to get out there the following day and go resolve. But you can see on here, we have acknowledged the request, we routed it to the appropriate person, and then we followed back up when it was closed. There's the ability, since you can see where other people have indicated an issue, you can see whether other people have reported the issue. You can add information to it, like photos, or describe the situation if perhaps it's getting worse or something of that nature. And then the city staff will take care of it. So we generally get about 1,000 to 1,500 issues per year reported. In 2020, 2021, that was our peak year where we had the derecho that came through. So there was a lot of storm damage that was getting reported through the app, which was actually very helpful to us so that we could see where we needed to go and address tree damage or dangerous trees or damage to properties, things of that nature. So that is Ames on the Go.
All right. Thanks, Brian. And before you leave, can you pull up the City of Ames website? I want to go to boards and commissions. One of the ways that we benefit from student participation is on some boards and commissions. And we have a total of 20 boards and commissions in the city. And of those, 8 are really technical in nature and require qualifications like for business owners, or they're quasi-judicial. But there are, I'm just going to go through quickly what we have that students can and are participating in right now. Chief Huff left tonight because the Ames Resident Police Advisory Committee was recently formed, and we have 1 student on there. Maybe you're aware of ASSET, which is analysis of social service evaluation team, and student government helps provide funding to help with social service needs in our community. And you actually have a group, I think, of 2 or 3 that are appointed that actually serve and represent Iowa State. Deb mentioned the Campus and Community Commission. There's actually 2 student government appointees on that. We have a Climate Action Plan Supplemental Input Committee, and Deb's going to talk about that, just touch on that in a minute, but we have students on that already. There is a commission on the arts. It's called CODA, and they help set budgets for fine art funding and aims that are submitted to the council. That would be an opportunity if someone's interested in participating on that one. We have a Historic Preservation Commission. We do not have any students currently serving on that, but if someone is interested, we'll show you how to apply on that. We have a Human Relations Commission. We have 1 student, and we can have up to 2 students on that. We do have a student on Parks and Recreation Commission. Actually, that's Mr. Ludwig over there, President Ludwig. We also have a Library Board of Trustees. That is actually probably one of our most popular boards that we have. But we have no students on that, and if you're interested, that would be one to consider. We also have a Property Maintenance Appeals Board, and we have a student tenant that serves and represents students on that one. And then the last 2 is Public Art Commission. And we currently have several openings on that commission, and we're looking for people to serve on that, and that gives you an opportunity to work with other artists in the community and looking at ways to enhance the, it's primarily sculptures or paintings or other things. And then we have the Transit Agency Board of Trustee, and there's 2 student appointees from student government on that too. So there are a lot of different ones that have student representation already that gives a voice. But if, Brian, if you can maybe pull up, let's just go to, I'll pick one, public arts. You can actually, or where's the application? I mean, we won't go to application. Oh. So if you're interested, if you just go to cityofames.org website, you can actually go to and find a link and fill in online a boards and commission application. The only qualification is that you have to actually live in the city of Ames. So if you are commuting in, that unfortunately would not allow you to serve on it. But if you are, renting within the city limits, you are able to apply, and it just asks for some general information. And then it gives you at the bottom of that screen, it shows you have 3 options. You can pick one of the, prioritize which ones you're interested in. Sometimes we just get one, people just put down one choice. All they want is a library board for sake of discussion, which is fine. And then it just asks, we give a little information about why you would be qualified to serve on that. And it does ask for occupation. And if you put down, currently a student at Iowa State, that's great, because that's a flag for us to know that it gives us a chance to appoint students. And initially, I was looking primarily for people to be on 1-year terms, because if you're going to get appointed and have to resign because you're moving away, I've changed my philosophy. And so now what we're doing is if we're appointing people to 3-year terms, and if you end up staying for 3 years, great. Hopefully it locks you in and you will stay in Ames the rest of your life, but that's probably a little pipe dream. But the point is, we do have some students that are resigning because they're moving on, they're going, which is fine, and then we're just getting people to replace it. So it's a great way to meet individuals. I know a lot of the council members served on boards and commissions. I was on the transit board for 4 years, served as president. It was a great window into how the city and the university work together, and you meet great people, and it's just great exposure. So that is an opportunity to be part and parcel of the community. So I'm going to ask Bryce or Rachel if you have anything you want to add, or Gloria, if you want to talk about a little bit about our the CRP initiative that we're doing to try and engage students in conversation also. Rachel.
So for the last 2 years, actually going on 3 years, the City Council has had a contract with Alenka Poplin in the Community and Regional Planning Program, where we've been working with students to enhance our engagement with underrepresented members of the community and trying to determine the best practices for outreach, because we know what we're doing now is not reaching everyone, and we want to try and bring everyone to the table. So that is an ongoing project, and this fall they are working on targeted outreach to census tracts where we know that we have large populations of historically marginalized groups, and there will also be outreach to faith communities this fall, because we know that trusted individuals can be a good means of connecting people to the community. So if you happen to be living in an apartment in one of these areas where the Play Ames team is out, or if you happen to be a member of one of the faith communities, watch for those students who are out there working on our public engagement and get involved. The other thing I'd just like to point out is that when we started working on this project, we asked, the city manager and I attended classes to work with the students, and we asked, how many of you are residents of Ames? And nobody raised their hand. And then when we said, do you have an apartment in Ames? Everybody raised their hand. So remember, you are all residents if you live within the city limits, and you have at least 3 council members who represent you, because you have a ward representative and 2 at-large representatives. So you have a direct conduit to city government through us, and we want to hear from you. So I'll encourage you to do that, and I'll yield this to Bryce or Rachel.
So I know a lot of people aren't engaged with city government, maybe because they think it doesn't affect their everyday life, but there are definitely a lot of things going on in the city that matter. The sales tax you pay at any Ames restaurant or retail store, that's because of government. The sidewalks, bike paths, parks, all of that is a part of the city government, and I think a lot of people don't think about the ways in which it touches their everyday life. And so oftentimes a lot of people don't follow along with city government because they don't know if there's any reason to, or don't necessarily have a reason to follow along. But the city council agendas are always posted on our website. A lot of times there's notifications on the City of Ames social media about when the agenda is posted to, so you can look and see if there's any topics that are of interest. All of us can be emailed at mayorcouncil@cityofames.org, one email address, and you reach all 7 of us, which is great. And then myself and Bronwyn Beatty Hansen also run an email newsletter where you can get a preview of some of the important topics of a meeting and a review of the votes afterwards if you're interested in that sort of thing. But there's a lot of ways to connect with any of us on council, social media pages, emails, phone calls, meetings. We're always open to engagement because we never get enough of it, and we want to be representing the City of Ames as best as possible, and that includes representing the students that live here.
Thanks, Rachel. And I would say that I just want to commend Rachel and Bronwyn. They do a great job of putting together a synopsis. If you want to understand what's going on and issues and just how things move forward in a very short summaries, they do a really, really good job. How can they find that and get signed up for it? So they can get linked into you.
The website where you can subscribe to the email is Ames Council News.
Ames Council News.
Mm-hmm. Or I think there's a link to it in my council's social media bios. So
Okay.
you can go to Rachel Frames and find the link there.
Maybe you can just forward that to student government or to Bryce, and then go ahead and they can link into it. All right, anything you want to add, Bryce?
Okay, here we go. The only thing that I would like to add is I think student government is trying to strengthen the relationship with the City of Ames. I've talked about this at council, but we This is the first year that we actually have a local affairs committee, that the whole sole purpose of that is to, the students that are part of that committee, is required of them to get involved with a city board and commission. And then we also have at-large spots on that committee too for students that aren't senators. We don't have anyone yet, and the email just went out to students, so I'm hoping that we can get some others involved in getting to know what the city's doing. So then I would just encourage senators, if you have any friends or know anybody in your class or whatever that shares an interest for getting involved with the city or an interest in local government, to send our way.
So frankly, we are out of time on that topic matter. So we will move on to our next of the Ames Climate Action Plan.
Actually, I know we're getting close to being out of time. What if, Deb, can you, Deb and Damien both come up and just kind of do, you both can, Damien's been, actually, let's do this. Why don't you have Damien talk about the bike master plan, and then Deb can go ahead and talk about the climate action plan, then we can take questions for both of them.
I'm Damien Pregatzer. I'm the traffic engineer for the City of Ames, and one of the things that I wanted to talk about was how we can get student involvement. So the city is kicked off an effort of updating our bike and pedestrian planning. So that used to be housed within our MPO documents. I won't go through all the, relitigate all the issues, that having it in a DOT document and moving it back under like solely city control just gives us more freedom, lets us have more information in that plan that maybe the DOT won't let us do. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about was how you can get involved. Specifically, if you go to City of Ames, we have a friendly URL. So if you can share this with whoever might be interested and cares about walking and biking, using a scooter, whatever it might be in Ames. If you go to cityofames.org/walk-bike-roll, it's all one word, no dots, and that'll get you to that project's website. There's, you can sign up to stay engaged in that, so anytime we put updates about the plan, it'll show up on that page. There'll be things and activities that will be posted there throughout, essentially now until late summer, maybe this time next year, depending on how some of the public engagement goes and how the plan development ends up. We really want to have that plan done and adopted before the city's CIP process begins next fall. So, but really that's that walk, bike, roll, friendly URL that's on the website is where you can start. If you were at the sustainability event yesterday, there was I think we had quite a few students that got signed up already. I know the website is at activity, polls have been starting to come in, so that's how you can get engaged with it. If you're kind of wondering like what is the plan, maybe I'll just give you a quick, hopefully a real narrow synopsis of what it is. It's substantially an infrastructure plan. It will talk about policy. It will talk about ways to encourage walking and biking and things like that. But the plan focuses on how the network is designed, how it's planned for in the future, and how it's paid for. So really, those are kind of the main elements of a plan that we would have. That because under Public Works, that's what we do is we manage the infrastructure for our city. So, but if there are barriers that to walking or biking that are policy related, maybe even legislative, like legally related, it may talk about them, but it's not going to answer those questions. It just informs the people who are in charge of those things that, hey, maybe there's a law that needs to be looked at down the road, or maybe there's a policy that needs to be addressed. But the plan is developed under existing laws and existing policies to try and maximize what we do have at resources available to the city.
Can you talk about the interface between Iowa State and the campus and also with the city? Because obviously we have institutional roads, we got the campus that we have no jurisdiction on. How would that be working together?
Yeah, absolutely. So the plan, like I said earlier, used to be housed within the MPO's planning document. And the jurisdictions that are involved with that are Boone County, Story County, City of Ames and Gilbert, and Iowa State, which is kind of a quasi-governmental agency. So they own their own roads. The way we're handling the interface between all those different governmental agencies is we have a technical committee that I chair, essentially, and it includes Iowa State staff. It includes staff from the county, from Gilbert and so forth. And then there is a community advisory committee, and if some of you are on the transportation committee for that FP&M oversees, you might have got an email from me recently asking if you would like to be part of the community advisory committee. So that community advisory committee is going to have a representation of everybody that is in Ames. So all the different groups, from ages, from abilities, from ethnicities, and so forth. Everybody who wants to, who might want to be interested in walking or biking in Ames and needs representation in that plan, we're trying to get on a committee. We've had, Deb has been helping with me to get people, at least solicitations out to people to be part of that. So it's an ongoing effort, and you're kind of wondering like where we might be right now. Well, we've hired the consultant, and they are in the kind of the data collection phase. So by the time in maybe February, or let's say late winter, is really where a lot of the main pieces of the plan will start to be rolled out. So right now, it's more of the visioning and issues stage of this kind of effort. So when you go to that website, you probably notice there's a poll on there. The first thing we'll be asking you is like, what would you want for walking, biking in Ames? So it starts with kind of vision statements. That helps inform the consultant to take that and national standards and kind of start to work them into criteria, performance measures, things that would help you build out a walking and biking network. But we interface with Iowa, like, as you may have already heard, you know, Iowa State has, their own campus plan for their own infrastructure. So this plan won't tell Iowa State how to fill in a trail, how to fill in a sidewalk, or even how they manage their sidewalks and trails. But we will make sure that the interfaces between the city and campus, that there are successful ways to transition from walking or biking or to get on and off of a bus to another mode. So we'll make sure that those plans are in concert with each other.
Any questions for Damien on the plan? It's just getting started, so it's a great opportunity to get involved if you want to get involved.
Senator Thornton.
Right now, the city website refers to wearing a helmet as a safety tip. I just wanted to know if the city planned to implement a helmet law for bicyclists or motor bicyclists.
So that's probably one of those things I was describing as like a policy or a regulation. So what the plan will do, and the consultant is tasked with doing, is doing a summary of existing policies and also best practices. So there could be policies around the nation where they've seen success for encouraging walking, biking, improving safety, and so forth. So if we don't have that type of law or something that you're describing, they might make a recommendation when the plan is ready to be adopted that we have a helmet law or that we have some other type of thing. And then it'll be up to the city council to decide if they want to move forward with that.
Okay, that pretty much answers my next question too, so then that's fine. Thank you.
Sure. Senator Kamstra.
Yeah, I just have one kind of point of thought for you all to consider as you're like in the planning phases and stuff like that. Kind of similar to the helmet law regarding electrical boards, scooters, and I guess Segways now. I saw a student with a full-blown like Paul Blart Mall Cop Segway on campus. So considering the City of Ames policy moving forward as to whether those are going to be allowed on bike like lanes or on sidewalks, because I'm not sure if there's currently a policy on that, but making sure that that's definitely a talking point. I know it's a point of contention for a lot of students on campus, as we see on social media. So yeah.
I think one thing I might offer is that, so the consultant, myself, we're all transportation professionals. So really one of the things that this plan will look at is kind of the physical speed, the characteristics of each mode. So if you're walking, you take up so much space, you move so quickly. If you're on a scooter, likewise. And we'll probably make recommendations through the design elements of the plan, how to best manage and provide space for those different modes. But it's not going to necessarily say that this segment we don't want a scooter on. It may say it's not designed for it, and then policymakers or legislative actions can maybe dictate that it's not. But I think one of the things, right now, my understanding, the only governing law is that if you have an electric powered vehicle, whatever it is, it's considered a vehicle if it can go by its own power faster than 20 miles an hour. So you are no longer a bike, you are no longer a pedestrian if whatever you're on can take you faster than 20 miles an hour. That doesn't mean coast downhill at 20, but it's kind of like on flat ground it can do it. So like if you look at some of our codes where you can't have an ATV on a trail, if your scooter or your e-bike lets you go 20, you're under that. And so the police could probably cite you if you're going too fast. And there's also kind of just general laws about discretion and safety of operation. But I think the plan will, to your point, I'll get to your point, but generally to your point is that it will make recommendations how to safely interact with all these modes, including cars, including bikes. Even though we won't focus on vehicular, like motorized vehicles, we do need to talk about them in the plan because obviously they are a big component of safely and comfortably walking and biking around town. So.
We will move on to the Ames Climate Action Plan just for the sake of time.
Thank you again, and I will be brief. The city has been involved in a climate action planning process now for about 1.5 years. We're working with a consultant in developing that plan and the implementation steps. So City Council's target is 83% reduction in emissions by 2030 and net zero by 2050. So that's setting the stage for the actions that we need to take to make progress towards that goal. And our consultant has come up with what they call the 6 big moves, and those are reducing vehicle emissions, increasing active transportation and public transit, building retrofits, net zero new construction, so looking at policies around new construction, and reducing our waste emissions. So dovetailing on what Damien talked about on active transit and public transit, we've got plans within the city that will fall in line with the climate action plan. We've got transportation plan, we have land use plan, we'll have a bike ped master plan. So all of these plans will need to overlap in some form or fashion as we move forward on the climate action plan. We have 29 action steps under those 6 big moves. And so what staff has been doing the last several months is analyzing those action steps and looking at financial feasibility, legal feasibility, how it's going to impact our community and our residents, and what kind of staff time or administrative time it's going to take to implement those action steps. We're pulling that together in a nice big report for council to review and then discuss at a workshop that's scheduled for Tuesday, November 15th, starting at 6 p.m. at City Council chambers. So that will be a big night to discuss all of that information and determine the next steps. We're hoping for a final plan through the consultant spring, early summer, and we'll then start looking at how we're going to be implementing it. This is a plan that will not be shelved. It will be put to use and steps implemented so we can be more conscientious about policies that we develop and practices and behaviors that we want to see throughout the community. Happy to answer any questions.
Deb, can you just talk about how we got community feedback and also how students gave feedback?
Yeah, yep. Earlier, the mayor had mentioned the Supplemental Input Committee. That is a 27-member committee that is representing 12 sectors of our community. Students are one of those sectors, and so we have 3 students and then ISU administration who is on that committee. They haven't met for a while because we don't have our analysis completed yet, but they were reviewing information that the consultant put forward and would provide feedback before each of the workshops that council had on the climate action plan. We've had 2 community surveys, and then we do a number of presentations to groups around the community. I know we've come to the Students Climate Action Plan group, and we gave a presentation, I believe, almost a year ago. We're happy to come back and provide information and interact at any level that students need, but it's primarily through the Supplemental Input Committee, and then on the city's sustainability webpage, we do have a big green box that says Climate Action Plan, and so if you click on that box, you'll be taken to the page that talks about all of the process that we've been going through and the documents that we've had available for the community. And then if you want to email our project team, please use the sustainability@cityofames.org email address, and that will get to our 4-member project team if you've got any questions or input.
And also just mention how Iowa State has their own climate action plan. How is that being interfaced or worked with in terms of the City of Ames's?
Yeah. So the city has sustainability coordinator Mary Rankin. She's also the director of sustainability for Iowa State University, but she's been very involved and is a member of our project team for the Climate Action Plan. And similar to what Damien said in terms of we can't tell Iowa State what to do with their micromobility and their infrastructure. We can't tell Iowa State what to do about their climate action plan, but they are at the table with us, and they are listening, and they are giving input and taking information back to administration as far as what can be, what could possibly dovetail. But they're definitely, they're a little city amongst our city and are involved in the planning process. Important that they are, and using the information in the best way possible to meet their climate action goals.
Briefly, Senator Anglican.
How does the Ames Climate Action Plan apply to Iowa State students? So essentially, why should all students care about the Ames Climate Action Plan?
Yep. So being residents within the city of Ames, there are already programs that we have available that we encourage students to be involved with, and that could be the the glass recycling program, the food waste diversion program. If you're living in a situation where you can apply for rebates or other programs that we have available through the electric services department, we would encourage that. We want to be knowledgeable of what climate action is occurring within our community and how we can address that. A lot of it has to do with behavior changes and in different ways that we're getting around the community and interacting with one another, whether it's using a SiRide instead of driving your own vehicle or riding your bike to campus instead of driving. You're part of this community. We need your involvement and understanding of what the Climate Action Plan will do, your input on that, and ideas, because students come up with great ideas, things that we're not always thinking about because we're maybe looking at the business sector or the industrial sector, but we want the student input. You live in buildings that may be required to retrofit with heat pumps or windows or doors. So what is that going to mean for you? Is it going to mean lower utility bills? Will that mean a little bit higher rent because the landlord's going to make those adjustments to your living arrangements? So it'll impact you in one way or another, and so it's important to be involved and stay informed. Thank you.
We'll move on to closing comments starting off with ex officio Garmin.
Awesome. I just want to first thank City Council and City staff for being here tonight. I think it's very important to maintain a relationship between student government and the city because we both have the same common goals of making Ames a great environment for our students to live in and be a part of. But then I also want to thank senators for being here an hour earlier than you typically are and for coming prepared with questions and discussion questions. And then I just want to remind, if City Council, when we adjourned, if we can meet at that back wall, the student government PR team would like to take a picture. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much for your attendance and also for participation. And I hope that you are encouraged that we are trying to build and foster, open communication. We value all of you. We thank you for choosing Iowa State, and we're not perfect. We can always do things better, but the only way we're going to learn and what we can improve upon is by hearing from you. So we didn't get a chance to spend much time on it, but if you have ideas on how we can better engage with you, we are all ears. And I think that I know the answer is, well, just send me an email, because I can't tell you how many emails I get every day, and I'm sure you do too. And so what is a way that we can really have good open communication and understand what the needs are? And I think honestly, face-to-face that we've done here for the last 2 hours is one of the best ways to do it. We can actually listen to, hear, understand, ask questions, ask clarification. But we hope that you come away from this knowing that we really are interested in hearing from you. We value your feedback. And again, I can't say enough positive things. All through COVID, just since I've been in office since January of 2018, I have just been impressed with the dedication of Iowa State student government, administration, the county, the school district, city council to want to work together. I think it's a different time of, I think it's just really a positive things in the Ames community. And a lot of communities don't enjoy that. And we're committed to doing that. And so we want you to continue to feel free to contact us. And well, if you can find a magic bullet on how to communicate back and forth, we would embrace it. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the city council meeting. Is there a motion?
Second.
All right, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.
The same for student government. Is there a motion to adjourn? Was there a motion? Oh, okay. All right, with that, we are adjourned. If we can have everyone meet back there, I think there is a request for a picture. Not everyone.
Not everybody?
All right, we will call the regular weekly student government meeting to order. We will start off with roll call. Thank you again to everyone that was able to come tonight to the joint city council meeting. They cherish that opportunity to speak with us, as do we. So when I say your name, please say here present, starting with Agba. Becker. Bruick. Burks. Cecil. Dre. Eisma. Engelken. Frencher. Hagbarth. Heidenreich. Holiday. Kamstra. Kohlhaus. Kuehler. Mahoney. Margaret. Matthews. Mays. Moscar. Momini. Patel. Schnepp. Shivraj. Slade. Slater. Tansey. Thornton. Topete. Vo. Inyanting. With that, we do have quorum. We'll move on to the Pledge of Allegiance led by Speaker Mahoney. Again, I suppose. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, with no program of the evening, we'll move into open forum. If there's anyone here from open forum, please approach the podium now. Anyone here for open forum? Seeing none, we'll move into adopting the agenda for this evening. Is there a motion to do so?
Mr. President,
By Speaker Bruick.
I move to remove 2022-2.011F funding student government vibes from the agenda.
Is there a second? It has been moved and seconded to remove funding student government vibes from the agenda. Is there any objection to doing so? Seeing none, that bill shall be removed. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as newly amended? Is there any objection to adopting the agenda? Seeing none, the agenda shall be adopted. I will move into approval of the minutes from last meeting. Is there a motion to do so? It has been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of last meeting. Is there any objection to doing so? Seeing none, they shall be approved. Now move into committee reports, starting with Speaker Mahoney.
So, rules met on Sunday as usual. Didn't have any votes or anything, but we did continue our bylaw discussion. The two big things, we've sort of finalized what we want, or what we at least as a committee think. We want kind of the feasance process and how removals or censures or investigations, all that kind of jazz happens, basically disciplinary within the Senate. We've kind of outlaid a much better, more formalized process that is more fair to people while also being more transparent and rigorous, I suppose. We originally were intending that it would just happen as part of the bylaw rewrite, but given the kind of sad state that our current system is in, we're thinking we're going to actually introduce a bylaw bill relatively soon that makes some of those changes, as it will only touch a chapter or two. So look out for that in the next week or two, and we'll be able to talk about that more when it comes up. Otherwise, we just continued to have some conversation about voting thresholds right now. There's some confusion. Basically, for those of you that don't know, a lot of our votes, if you abstain from a vote, that's implicitly kind of a no. So that's why we want to change some things so that we don't punish people for abstaining. A lot of votes are qualified weirdly. It's complicated in legalese, but that's one of the big things we're looking at right at the moment. We're going to start having some more conversations with the Election Commission. I've been meaning to get the meeting scheduled with everyone, and unfortunately just didn't have a time this past week to actually meet with everyone, so hoping that'll happen soon. That's about it.
Questions for...
One more thing. As Senator Thornton alluded to last week, we will have an opening at the turn of the semester for a new member of Rules. If anybody's interested in Rules Committee, interested in the bylaws, interested in contracts, all of that jazz, please feel free to reach out to me. It's actually surprisingly more fun, and I never thought I would enjoy it, but, well, here I am.
Any questions for Rules? If not, Finance with Director Claiborne.
Hello, everybody. So the Claiborne's cash cow for the week went out. The biggest thing was that BSA was sent favorably. There are a few questions about that I would obviously like them to say in front of everyone, just about what the event is for, what they're doing all week, just to hear what BSA is doing, because I think it actually is really great week, incorporating different organizations on campus. Another thing too, I am very happy that we are having more finance bills come through, but if you do write one, please just loop me in. I have written probably more finance bills than I can count, and I know the procedure, know what to do, obviously what accounts to go through, and just makes the process easier for senators writing. So please, in the future, obviously it could just be a text, an email. I don't really care, just loop me in. And then just off of that, we are going more into PNC. Next week, I was invited and I am going to the city budget meeting for Ames. So I will be attending that after our finance committee meeting. But we have a lot of bills coming in the next 2 weeks. Again, please look out for those. If you have any questions on the amounts, the accounts they're coming from, why they're going to be read, please let me know. And then also our 4 senators for finance should be asking 2 other senators just to read PNC. With that, I just want that senator just to read PNC. You don't have to go in depth, but if there is anything that you see not really clearly stated of what you think should be, just let them know, and then we'll come to a committee and get that going. And we are almost going to finalize PNC. We'll do that next week. And then we'll start our annual allocations timeline after everyone picks their classes, because we are all students first, so I want to go around their schedules. And then through that, when the PNC finalize comes through for first read, please read that through fully in depth. And if you do have any questions, you can ask me, or you can bring amendments to the floor, because I hope to have a long discussion on that, because that is one of the governing documents that we have to abide by, and I feel like it should have a long and heartful discussion. Sorry for the long update, but if you have any questions, please let me know.
Questions for Director Claiborne? Seeing none, we'll move on to PR with Director Grensteiner.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're all having a great day. It's hard to believe we only have a few more weeks left. I believe we only have 4 meetings left. That's crazy. So we have a lot of good news. We are planning on attending After Dark on November 11th. So if you would like to get involved, I believe Jamie has already made a sign up on the MIS page. So sign up to help with karaoke or calling bingo. It's a great way to get your outreach credit in if you haven't yet already. We are doing the homecoming painting victory lane. That will be this Sunday from 1 to 2. Again, the sign up is on the MIS page. Please sign up if you still have to do your outreach credits. You don't have to be artistic at all. It's just going to be a lot of fun, a lot of painting. The podcast promo video was released today, and we're having really good insights on that, and I'm very, very excited about that. A lot of good work was put into that. And we are filming another episode of the podcast tomorrow, so you can expect to see another release of the episode within the next few weeks. Prep Week discounts will be back again for Prep Week, which features discounts from local restaurants, cafes, or stores based on the business's comfort level in exchange for organic PR activity from the StuGov social media page. We are also implementing Finals Week goodie bags during Finals Week. The newsletter will be released this Sunday, October 30th, and the mass email was sent out on Tuesday. It went really well. Committee chairs, if you haven't yet checked your applications, please do so. I checked mine today, and I just got 7 more applicants because of the email. So be sure to check on that and follow up as necessary. Thanks.
Any questions for PR? Seeing none, we'll move on to diversity with Senator Malowski. There she is.
I hope everyone's having a good hump day. My updates are still the same. Our town hall's the 15th. we're just working on reaching out to different student organizations and dealing with that. The next big initiatives for the DI committee are just organizing the information that we have and also getting senators on the right track in terms of like what does DEI look like with each respective senator. So like senators for specific colleges expecting to hear from me beginning to mid-November in terms of having our first meeting about what type of information you've received from DEI people for your respective college, and then other senators I'll be reaching out after that to see if there are any type of DEI related initiatives or if you think there should be, if there's a need for it. But yes, and then also the BSA bill will be coming up as well. Thank you.
Any questions for Director Malowski? Seeing none, we'll move on to student initiatives with Senator Mays.
Hello. So we actually didn't meet this Monday because there was a chief advisory board meeting that me and I think one other person on the committee wanted to attend. But we do have updates. So the event authorization and the space reservation for pumpkin smashing has been done. It is not cleared yet. That's going to take a lot longer, but it is in the system. So I do expect a meeting at some point soon to talk about the logistics of the event and everything. And then the safety walk has been finalized to be on Monday, November 7th. And it's going to be at 6:30. We're going to meet at the MU Fountain at 6:30. So if you guys want to attend, just know that's when it's going to be. Kind of slot out your calendars. And yeah, that's all I've got.
Questions for SI? Seeing none, move on to local affairs with ex officio Garmin has already taken care of them. Sustainability Committee. Is Director Vander Kamp here? All right. Vice Chair Anglican.
Hello. So yesterday we had Campus Sustainability Month celebration. I saw a lot of your smiling faces there, so that's really exciting that you guys got to enjoy that, enjoy the free stuff. Tabling went pretty well. We had a lot of our members table, and we pretty much were tabling the whole time, and we had a lot of very good conversations, gave out a lot of stickers, very good time. At the meeting yesterday, we came up with a question to ask the City of Ames about the Ames Climate Action Plan. And I was able to ask that, and I'm happy we got a very good answer on it. I'll give the rest of the members a timestamp for that meeting so they can see how City of Ames responded to that. Subcommittees are going great. Everyone's starting to get their individual projects underway, and it's super exciting to see everybody making progress. So, yeah.
Any questions for sustainability? Seeing none, we'll move on to health and wellness with Director Everest.
Okay, I struggled with turning this on. I'm used to the remotes. Good evening, everyone. I have a lot of really exciting updates. The last Party Smart tailgate is tomorrow from 11 to 2 by the Campanile. We're going to finish strong. The ISUPD therapy dogs will be there. We officially got all of our swag in, so we will be giving out they're stadium approved, so they're clear fanny packs packed with resources, liquid IV, granola bars, some free goodies and things like that. So some really good stuff. I would really love to see you all there. It's also a great outreach credit. If you're available to come a little early around like 10 or 10:30 and help me set up, I will vouch for that as an outreach credit with Jamie as well. I just sat a new at-large, so I officially have 2 of my 4 at-large seats filled. We're still struggling to find a committee time, but once Party Smart wraps up, I want to get their input on some new mental health initiatives. That conversation we had today really kind of lit that fire inside me, so I'm excited about that. Some funding for the menstrual product dispensers is coming. We're going to see first read on one of those tonight, and then a few more over the next few weeks. If you have any questions or you want to get involved with that, let me know. I'm now the chair of the Menstrual Equity Task Force. If you would like to join that task force or sit in on a meeting, please let me know. Community conversation, November 7th. So Aaron and Brian, if you were here for the joint city council meeting, they will be speaking at that presentation. I will be going. A few other members of student government will be going, just to kind of discuss resources and things that are available for students and community members. If you're interested, let me know. I'd love to get a group together to go. I can bring snacks. And then mark your calendars. The Health and Wellness Symposium is February 3rd. That's a Friday. I'm helping to plan that. We're going to have some really great breakout sessions, so focused on students and staff. And the theme for this year is supporting yourself and supporting others. If you have any questions about any of that, feel free to let me know. Otherwise, again, as it gets cold, please wear a hat, please wear a coat going into this weekend. Please remember to party smart. Remember that acronym. Specifically, wear a coat and reach out in a crisis. And I will see y'all next week.
Questions for health and wellness? Senator Kamstra.
I got a question from a student out of state, specifically from Texas, on what he should do if he doesn't have a winter coat and can't afford to go buy a $200 coat.
That is a fantastic question. So there's a couple options that we have. I believe that, you can always look at Goodwill, borrowing one from a friend. I will look into the resources that we have. If I understand correctly, there's actually a sorority fraternity engagement event that's donating winter gear. I do not know if that is applicable for student usage. It's not? Okay. But let me put some feelers out and reach out about that. Send me an email. Feel free to connect me with this student, or if they would prefer anonymity, that's okay too. Let me touch base on that. I feel like there's definitely some resources that we have on campus.
Cool. I just didn't know if we had anything on campus, so thanks. I appreciate it. Yield.
Any further questions? Seeing none, moving on to comments from the judicial branch.
Hey guys, judiciary is going well. We are reviewing our judicial code of conduct today, so big meeting, big discussion. Other than that, we have begun to interact a bit more with the election commission. 2 representatives are actually in the current Supreme Court meeting, and we're talking about ways to be more involved in those elections and hopefully strengthen our democratic process here at Iowa State with that. And other than that, on a less positive note, we did accept a resignation of a justice today, so quorum becomes that much more harder for us. Thank you.
Questions for the judicial branch? Seeing none, we'll move on to comments with our advisor.
Hello, everyone. Happy 10th week. Thank you for all coming to the joint city council meeting. I know it's a time that we as an organization really appreciate connecting with our local government and having good discussion. So good job, everybody. Just a few updates. I am going to be out of the office on the 28th, the 1st, and then I'm doing a half day on the 31st. So I'm out. I'm here for a morning, and then I'm out. So if you need anything from me over the next few business days, please let me know tomorrow or Monday morning. Beyond that, I will say that I have a kind of packed week next week. So if you need something, please get it on my calendar sooner rather than later, or feel free to send me an email. I'm more than happy to respond back, or when I see you in person, talk about it, because that's a lot of times what I do. If you ever want to talk about anything or talk about student government, let me know. More than happy to chat.
Questions for our advisor? Seeing none, we will move on to comments from the executive branch with your 69 student body president, Jacob Ludwig.
Good evening, everyone. Oh, there we go. I was about to say this is going to be brief, but it's going to take a minute. So first up, a little bit of a cabinet reshuffle going on in the executive branch. We've got 2 active open positions right now. Some of our cabinet members had other things going on this coming up, so they chose to step down over the last couple weeks. So that is the Director of Affordability and the Director of International Student Experience. Applications will be sent out later this week to all of you if you have any interest, and we'll be reaching out to some other relevant groups on campus as well to take in some candidates. I don't think we've set a firm deadline for when we expect that to close, but that will be in the email that you all receive later this week. So just be on the lookout for that if you're interested in either of those positions. Additionally, our Senior Director of Communications, Christian Grindsteiner, has informed us that at the end of the semester, he'll be stepping down to pursue a co-op in the spring. So we will be conducting a search for that as well, but we plan to search internally within the PR committee. So if you're on that committee, you will get an email from us about that. So just be on the lookout for that. From there, Vice President Ulrich and myself met with President Winterstein earlier today, discussed a number of different things. I think key among them was the upcoming ISUPD Guardian app, or the new Guardian app. I think it's called ISU Armor or something like that. App Armor. There we go. What a fun name. Anyways, what? Oh, Iowa State Safe. He's still here, pulling through to the end. Okay. But spoke with President Winterstein about that and how we can maybe get that in front of students more effectively. And then additionally, earlier this week, we had the ICPD Advisory Board meeting with Chief Newton. And that was a major point of discussion as well, as along with how we communicate with marginalized communities on campus about the different bias training programs and cultural competency programs that the department has. And then also the past 2 months of just reports from the department regarding different arrests and traffic stops and calls and all that jazz. So from there, had a SciRide board meeting earlier today. That meeting just centered largely on a report that we received from a consultant regarding going fare-free citywide. After a pretty long discussion at the board meeting, we decided to defer deciding one way or the other on fare-free for the till the next fiscal year. There's just a number of things right now that are up in the air at SciRide, from hiring to just our ridership not fully rebounding yet. So we wanted to wait before we made a call on that specific venture. Tomorrow, I will be meeting, along with a number of other people in this room, we'll be meeting with the new member of the Board of Regents. He's coming to Iowa State to have a student meeting. That will be a good conversation just to talk about how we can better cooperate with the Board of Regents in the future, and also introduce him to our campus. We had a fee committee meeting yesterday where student government presented. We asked for no increase to the student activity fee, and then SciRide presented as well. Had a meeting earlier this week with the people running the SciThanks campaign that will be launching in November. If you're not familiar with the campaign, basically, sometime in November, you will get an email asking you to basically nominate other students that have made you feel valued here on the Iowa State campus. Okay. Nominate other students on campus that have made you feel valued, or that you think have had an impact on the community. I highly encourage you to nominate some other students that have had that kind of an impact on you, just so that we can kind of spread the thanks around. Additionally, had a MU Student Advisory Board meeting earlier this week where we discussed some of the upcoming changes to the second floor, that word, lobby, I guess is probably the best word for it, down where near the Colonel Pride Hall. So they're working with a consultant to come up with some new designs, and I think we're pretty excited about some of the new outlays that they're looking for that space, and then also potentially bringing in some vendors into that space as well to make it more student-friendly and just a place that students will actually want to be. Additionally, had meetings with Senior Vice President Dr. Younger last week. We talked a lot about the upcoming celebration for the 99th year of since Jack Trice died. It's going to kick off a whole year of celebrations around Jack Trice and his life and contributions to our campus. And so I think next Friday, November 4th, there will be a commemoration outside Jack Trice Stadium. Near the Stark Performance Center, we'll be unveiling a statue there. So I encourage a lot of you to come. It'll be, I think, right before a homecoming event. So if you're going to that anyways, I encourage you to go to the Jack Trice statue unveiling. Additionally, I just want to put on all of your radars, that the university has narrowed down its finalists for finance, senior vice president for finance and operations, and VP for extension. And there will be public meetings for the VP for extension over the next week or so. I'll send and forward an email to you all tonight with details about that if you have any interest in attending those. There are 5 finalists for VP for extension. There are a couple public meetings, and I would encourage you to go ask questions about the vision that they might have for taking over the extension arm of the university. It's a really important part of how Iowa State achieves its land grant mission. And yeah, that's all I got for you. Any questions?
Questions for President Ludwig? Seeing none, we will jump into tonight's business, starting with External Matters 2022-2-011F, funding, oh, no, that's gone. 2022-2-021F, funding Black Student Alliance with Senator Ogba.
I will delegate my time to Director Molesky.
Hi guys. So the bill that'll be proposed, Joe from BSA, he's the BSA president. So any questions when he goes up to talk, he's going to talk about like what is Black Homecoming, the importance of it, and then the specific events that'll be going on. So Joe, you can go up there.
Never talked into one of these. Hello, everyone. I'm going to speak from right here. I'm going to talk a little louder. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Joseph Putman. I'm the president of Black Student Alliance. For Black Homecoming Week, all it is effort from Black Student Alliance to conjoin a few other Black orgs, African Student Alliance, National Society of Black Engineers, and the National Panhellenic Council, which is the ruling body over all Black fraternities and sororities. And me as president, I brought these orgs together to try to make an inclusive homecoming. Obviously, we know Iowa State has a good homecoming, but Black students around this campus tend to usually stay, a lot of them stay in apartments, stay in like wherever they stay, they don't come out, they don't enjoy their time. So this is an effort by Black Student Alliance to get more diverse culture as far as homecoming goes. Yeah. Should I speak on the events or?
Oh yeah, give it like each day, like Monday through Saturday.
Yep. So Monday would be a silent headphone party. If you guys don't know what this is, basically everybody puts on headphones and then you just basically like dance to a song, but it's silent everywhere else. It's just you and the music in that one. Tuesday, which is MPAC Day, yep, that'll be Black Jeopardy. So basically just be a ton of different Black facts, basically trying to educate the people that come on like certain random facts, not just that MLK was a great guy. We'll go deeper into certain things. Wednesday is NESB. NESB will be doing a pumpkin patch type of ordeal. Like they'll have pumpkin bowling, all types of cool stuff in Central Campus. That'll be really fun. Thursday will be BSA. We're gonna do a paint day basically. So like we'll be able to paint each other's bodies, and then we'll have canvases that we'll paint. It'll just be a paint glow in the dark type of day. Friday would be my favorite. That'll be Afro skating party night. Basically it's just us skating, and then there'll be like Afro beats, all types of different beats going on. And then Saturday would be a really big tailgate at the BCC. Cool.
All right, we will open the floor for discussion. We'll start off with Senator Thornton.
I guess this one goes to Finance Director. Hi. Is there a reason we're funding this through events instead of using our typical like $8 a plate?
So if we do that, it would have to be specifically the international and ethnic food. So we couldn't pay for pizza, drinks, hot chocolate.
Got it.
So it would have to, it's going through this, so it's not bound by PNC.
Easy, got it. What is the anticipated attendance for your event?
For the whole week or for each day?
Just for like the whole week, maybe?
Well over, I'd say per event, there'll be over 100 people. Say around 120, 140 people.
Also, just to add to it, I did the math for like food and stuff like that for within the budget, and what we did essentially is we took the respective people from each organization, took their total, and then took like plus or minus difference within people with cross-section organization, and that's how we got our number for a lot of like the food and things of that fashion.
Okay. Cool.
And that number is very respectable because honestly, I think it would be way more people than that. I just don't want to give you a fake number.
Sure. So I only have a couple of questions about like the items that are on here. At one point you list plastic cups and you list solo cups. So it seems like plastic cups are basically on the listing twice, and I'm just wondering if that was purposeful or it just got on there twice.
That is because we had each organization do a separate budget sheet for their respective event. So cups might be for Wednesday, and then the solo cups might be for Thursday. Yeah, and that is, I apologize for that because we should have merged those.
No, that's okay. You know, understanding though that it is important then that it's not just that it's the same event on there twice, but that it is that they do need to be on there for that amount. So it's probably gonna be the same thing for color tape versus tape then? Okay, totally fine. And then hot hands, is that just because there's an outdoor event and like it's the hand warmer things or? Okay, cool. Are the large pumpkins like decorations or are you gonna be carving pumpkins?
Carving.
Okay, cool. Then that's everything I have questions for.
Senator Becker.
Okay, I have a lot of things to say. I want to preface with that I love the idea, but as of right now, I'm voting no on the specific bill because I think we could go about it a better way. So last week when I heard that we were seeing this bill, I was really concerned that Homecoming Central had done something that would alienate Black students. So I reached out and I was like, hey, I'm really concerned you haven't done enough to include all students here on campus. And they were really surprised that I had sent them that email because they feel like they've done a considerable amount. So they asked me to read back this email, which they sent out to a president of one of the clubs that is a part of this club. So it says, thank you for reaching out. Blank organizations are always welcome to do anything they would like for homecoming events. This could include, but is not limited to, performing, teaching, games, and meeting the community. We are not set on anything, and if your organizations would like to be involved, we would love to host them in any way they see fit. Performances were proposed by Iowa State administration, but are in no way the only option for event participation. Homecoming Central Committee has found that the best events for student organizations to be involved with are the kickoff celebration and excitement in the streets. So my question is, like you're saying the intention of the week is to uplift and curate community in Iowa State student body, but you're not attempting to engage with the student body in homecoming in a meaningful way. So, like, would you be open to submitting this plan to Homecoming Central and rebranding it under the general homecoming marketing so that you are getting a lot of students to attend and not just like students you've already created a community with?
So I think you kind of misunderstand the purpose of Black Homecoming. Essentially, I'm gonna break it down for you so it's like super, super simple. What you're saying is all true. Like homecoming is great. Like there are a lot of stuff going on for the whole student body. The whole point of this event is and like the university will back this up, retention for multicultural students and graduation rate is extremely low. While one can say what the variety of reasons are, research and studies, one of the big things is community. So what BSA and Black exec boards are trying to do is create their own community from that student level. So essentially, other students can come to be part of like Black Homecoming, but it's supposed to be put on by students because things that are put on by administration versus students have different impact and effect. So based off that ground and basis, the whole point is Black students want to create that community for themselves that if other people so choose to come to, they can. Because if we're being real, Black students don't feel that level of acceptance or that participation level would be there. So in order to get that participation level there, they have to create their own space that they feel comfortable so then if other student orgs or bodies want to come, they can. Hence why anyone that comes available. But for Black Homecoming, the whole purpose is to really emphasize and celebrate Black history and celebration. Because at PWIs historically and even now, it's not. And it's seen within the whole committee and community. So.
Yes. So Homecoming Central is student-based, so everyone who plans it is students. And I completely agree with you that like students who are not white need space on campus, but I want to give you guys funding so that you can have space in Iowa State traditions and so that you can feel safe and wanted and welcome in every single Iowa State tradition and not just in things you have to plan for yourself. Like, you shouldn't have to only feel welcome in things you planned. You should feel welcome in every single thing put on by this university, especially if it's funded by us. That's just my take on the issue. I think we could do a better job cultivating community if we had one united, racially diverse homecoming than trying to spread it all out.
I'll say one more thing about that too. For DEI type work, the emphasis isn't on diversity, it's equity and inclusion that with the hopes to lead to diversity. So you can't expect or force diversity to happen unless change happens at the cultural level. And in order for change to happen at the cultural level, people have to come to us. That's what I'm saying. That's the reality of it. So the emphasis and purpose of this event is so that Black students can create a culture that they feel comfortable, so that if other student orgs or other people want to come, they can experience what is Black culture, what is Black homecoming. Because the reality is Black homecoming is different than homecoming, hence why it's Black homecoming at HBCUs. And since if you look at it from the privilege and class aspect, not every Black person can afford to go to an HBCU. I applied to go to an HBCU. It's expensive. I came to Iowa State because I'm on a free tuition scholarship. So for you to say that, oh, we should have homecoming and everybody should come, that defeats the whole purpose of Black homecoming. Because Black homecoming, while it's still homecoming, it's a nuance and a niche within that homecoming. So for you to just be like, let's put Black homecoming with homecoming, defeats the whole purpose of Black history and Black homecoming in itself. And it also takes away the autonomy from Black orgs to put on an event that they know that they would like and they know that students would like as well. And if you look at BSA numbers in terms of retention and participation, it gets higher and higher each year. And part of that is because we care about what our students want and what they want to see in that culture and that climate that they want to create.
Yep, and then two more things. The first thing, I would love to collab with you guys next year on something like that, being able to reach out and be able to plan that together. I do like the idea of it, but also, like she said, and how I know the audience that I have as the president of Black Student Alliance, because honestly, I run majority of Black Iowa State, so I know my peers. Half of my peers will not come to a homecoming event that I say to come to if it's sponsored, I don't know, whatever the homecoming events are going on right now. And that's not as much as, how would I put it?
It's not the entity's fault, it's just the culture.
Yeah, it's not the entity's fault, it's the culture. I love your mindset, but not everybody has your mindset. So therefore, something that I've pushed for, and I will push for everybody that comes after me to do, is to make your own impact, make your own events, make everything you want to happen at Iowa State happen. Because if we rely on what you want, nothing is gonna happen. But there will be good people like you that are like, why aren't we doing this? But then there's somebody else that might not be speaking how you're speaking right now that's like, I don't really care.
Okay, so it's having your own space is more beneficial than trying to create a space together.
Both.
As for this year
I wanna do
alone.
both.
You want to do both? Okay,
Yes.
great.
I also want to emphasize it's not about having your own space, two separate spaces. It's acknowledging that within our society, within our culture, within the system that we live in, these spaces are created for a specific reason. And people choose to be in those spaces because that's where they feel comfortable and at home. So who is anyone to tell them, no, you need to be apart with everyone else? Because if they wanted to do that, it would already be done. And everyone knows there's a bunch of reasons why that isn't attainable. And that's not a one-side thing, it's a both-party thing. But also with that being said, I encourage all of you to come out to all the Black homecoming events. My sorority sisters are coming, none of them are Black. So it's about you breaching the barrier, but also that being reciprocated. And that's when you'll see more students of color, more multicultural students wanting to go to those events because they feel like, oh, these people are coming here. They care about us. They see us. Wait, maybe I want to go there because I know I can feel safe and comfortable. Because a lot of these Black students come from places like where I'm from, Chicago, super racially diverse areas. And coming to Iowa can be really scary sometimes when not everyone looks like you, not everyone grew up how you grew up. And it's and you expect them to go in these spaces and feel comfortable. I've been to PWIs my whole life, and coming to Iowa was an adjustment for me. And honestly, I like your idea, but the reality is it's not feasible, at least right now.
Okay,
so one last thing.
Yeah, can I, real quick? So I want a better relationship between the orgs. So next year, you're saying before we invite you to take part in general homecoming, we need to go to all your events. Would that be a productive step?
Well, I think you're thinking of two different things. What I'm talking about from at least the culture aspect is something that it's an individual thing. You can't control how every individual person talks, acts, thinks, and how that might impact or affect someone else. But what I am saying is that when students see an effort being done about the care and willingness to learn into their community, that will be reciprocated. That's reciprocity, right? So if you want to do joint events in the future, I think that's great, but you can't expect, oh, since there's a joint event, all these black students should come. They're only going to come if they feel comfortable enough to do so. But I think starting that initiative is great, but also it's really a macro thing.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's what I was gonna touch on. Like, what was I gonna say about it? Dang, I lost it. Yeah, so it's not as much as us having our own space, because that sounds kind of like segregated, and I don't want to think about it like that. But it's more of a space where I know the music I play, the way we talk, the way certain things happen are different than if I go to an event that is sponsored and like we're just joint eventing it with like a big homecoming committee. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just how the cultures are. Everybody has a different culture. Everybody has a different perception of reality. You feel me? So, like, as much as I'm open to that, start here.
Yeah.
And then with the events coming to that, I love that idea, because that's how people learn about each other. Like, for me being in this room right now, I have never been in a student government meeting right now, and it's so cool to see all of you, and I wish I'd have been a part of it more, but I knew nothing about it. I didn't know how to get here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you're doing great work. I think we should talk more and try to collab in the future. Love it.
I agree.
Senator Slade.
Hi, this is just like a quick finance clarification on behalf of Finance Director. For like the bigger costs, like the headphones for the silent disco, are you guys planning on buying them or renting them?
Renting.
Gotcha. I yield. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Senator Kamstra.
Hi, yeah, so my first question is just kind of a clarification. I think I got it from all that discussion that was held. You guys want to do this year, like this coming homecoming next week. Dang. Because I'm on Greek Week Central, so like I understand the planning, and we were planning Greek Week 6 months out. Like, one, I commend you for still coming up here and trying to get this done for next week, but I'm gonna agree with Becker that you guys really could benefit from the resources of Homecoming Central, and I think next year there could be a collaboration similar to that between Greek Life and the rest of the student body, where you guys have your own council that meets, plans your own events. You guys have full autonomy, but then you also get the support of advisors, the funding, the PR, everything else that comes with homecoming. So I'm going to vote in favor of this for this year, so you guys can put this on to support you guys. But I think next year especially would be a big goal to get you guys on Homecoming Central. That way you guys can definitely collaborate. But back to my, yeah, I think that's all I got. Do you have any comments on that?
And I'll comment on that. I love that idea. One thing that kind of touches on what we were talking about, taking things in our own hands, because I had no idea about that either. And I've been president of 3 different main black orgs on campus. You talk about Greek Life, I was president of MPAC. So it's so cool that like that's there, and I wish I knew about that. And if we connect, I promise you I will make sure that like the board that is next year has access to that. Because the way you just said that, yeah, it sounds better than this.
I also just want to say one quick thing related to Black Homecoming. When you are thinking about these intersectional and collaborative events, I just want you to think about for who. So when you're thinking about, oh, this would be great diversity for this, or this would be great to have these different groups of people come together, but who benefits? Who is it really for? Because if you think about it, like sometimes it's not for the historically marginalized group, it's not for the multicultural students who benefit. It's more so for performative, honestly. So it's like, if you want to see those orgs come and do these collaborative events and you make these events, just keep in mind for who, because that shows like, first of all, real intention and what that impact will lead to, but also if people actually from multicultural orgs or historically marginalized groups will actually want to come to these events. Because we can tell when it's, oh, because we just want to have more diverse people or whatever, or it's like because we actually want to learn about Black culture, what Black homecoming means, like why was Black homecoming even started, because things like that will get you the response that you want in reality. But I just wanted to add that.
And then one last thing real quick. I know this has nothing to do with the finances and why we're here, but I will say also, I do challenge everybody in this room. If there are events, committees that there's no Black representation, like for example, the Homecoming Committee, as far as Black Student Alliance, because that is the primary organization for Black students on this campus, reach out, because more often than not, we just don't know about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I genuinely wish I would have known about that.
I definitely I feel where you're coming from. I'm literally, when I was running for this position to get seated, I literally said, I was sitting at my committee meeting and heard that we have an IFC senator, and I was like, oh, we do? Okay, cool. So like, I get you with the whole like education part. So yeah, I yield the rest of my time. Thank you guys.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Speaker Mahoney.
Okay, it's fighting me. Really just one quick small question, since this is obviously like next week. I just was curious if you guys could like touch on like how you're gonna like advertise it to everyone, right? That's one of the big things of events, is that, you know, it's a big public event for everyone. So that's, advertising was the only question I really had.
Primarily social media, and we have a very like good base with social media. And then every single org, along with every person that's on that board, I've challenged to send to multiple friends, so that way it's like a takeover. So you'll see it everywhere: Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, maybe even Facebook.
Senator Ogba.
I just wanted to say that on that, like a lot of the like Black organizations are very like interconnected. They have very as they said, very high retention rate, and they manage to get out information very quickly as well. So I yield.
Senator Burks.
Thank you. That are like for everyone, but you still don't feel that comfortable. But I attended like many like BSA events, and like they're more comfortable if I were to like attend like just a general like high school event. Like BSA like cookouts are more comfortable for me than like the ISU like welcome cookout. So, yeah.
And for example, quick clarification. Thought on that. BSA had a booth at Destination Iowa State this year, and I talked to a lot of incoming Black freshmen, and they were telling me how overwhelming Destination Iowa State was for them. Now, for majority of our community, Destination Iowa State is a very fun time. It's amazing. Like, I have all these events, all these new people. But imagine a Black student that walks in the room, and for example, I'm an engineering student. I walk in the room and there's 40 white engineers, and then me. It's a little different than when you can walk into a Black Student Alliance room and you have people that you can talk to first, get support that you might need, because some people, like, for example, imposter syndrome. Some people might not feel like they belong here. Or just moving to Iowa in general, and you come from a highly diverse community. I'm from Waterloo, Iowa. Waterloo is very diverse on the east side, which is where I'm from. Coming here was a culture shock for me, and I am from Iowa. So it's not as much segregated space as much as I can breathe. You got me.
And I would also like to add, like what you said, like being in like technology, like I'm the only like Black student in my class. So it's like after class of not seeing anyone that looks like me, and then like one day a week, like I get to see like people that do look like me, it's just like a relief. Like you get to like be yourself, you're not on edge, like, oh, if I say this, they're gonna be like, ooh, like she's not smart or something. But you're just like around people, and like you know you're not judged because you're going through the same experience as you.
Vice Speaker Bruick.
Yeah, so I guess I just wanted to say, I want to make a comment, and I kind of had a question. I'm totally in support of this bill. It sounds like you're got something really cool going on that can really, reach out to the Black community on campus, and I'm more than happy for student government to be, part of funding that and trying to make that happen. I guess my question was, based on some of these conversations, it sounds like, there's a willingness from Black Student Alliance and, all those interconnected groups to get involved in something like Homecoming Central and some of those broader campus organizations. Even supposing that happens and there's a better Black Student Alliance presence at those type of events, is this still something like a separate kind of Black Homecoming event? Would you still be putting that on in like future years, even if you are to get that? And would you still be looking to student government for funding from that in the future? Just to kind of get a picture of
Gotcha.
How this is supposed to fit in within the bigger university context, I guess.
Got you. For me as president right now, I can only speak for what I feel. How I feel about that is if there's a committee and I can put my board on that committee and they can plan those events themselves and there's nobody watching over their shoulder, there's no, I don't think you can do this, I'm cool with it just being a homecoming as long as there's events every day. Like as long as it's just the same format, it's just more so us together, I'm cool with that. But if there's a committee and my board tells me that they don't feel comfortable enough to express how they really want to run these events, then I will do separate as well.
And then also just to add to that, with this bill being proposed with Black Homecoming, it's honestly trying to set a precedent for future Black Homecomings, because one thing we've talked about at the graduate level and with Black staff is that, and Black graduates from Iowa State, is that not a lot of people want to come back because there's no events that like celebrate being an ISU graduate, but being a Black ISU graduate, because there's also meaning and emphasis behind that. And you see that within the NPHC thing that was created by the MU. So it's just like, it really is supposed to be a long-term thing. It's supposed to even bring alumni back. It's supposed to bring Black staff into it. It's supposed to bring graduate students, because it's collectively supposed to build community that's sustainable, which is also supposed to help with graduation and retention rate, because that types of community will make people want to stay here and also enjoy their experience as well, instead of being like, you know what, I just came here for a degree, 4 years, then I'm out. You also want your alumni to be proud to be ISU alum.
Yeah, and that goes kind of with what you said as far as moving into the future. Majority of my, I'll call them pros, alums, I don't know, they graduated and literally told me I would never come back. For student government, because you guys represent this school, especially from a student front, this should be so exciting because we took the initiative to be here. And that is one thing I touch on with how we were talking, because like I said before, you have to make that space. But now that we are here and I am putting this effort in, because as an engineer, I promise you I could be studying right now. I really want support from all of you moving forward. Because especially like everybody, we was just talking like, please reach out. Because when I'm gone, I'm gonna push people to be great, but you guys can really pull it too. Cool.
Yeah, I for one would say I'm definitely very excited to see this bill. And obviously, I graduate at the end of this year, so I won't be here. Senate doesn't have a, very long, we're here for 4 years at best.
Yeah.
But I hope that, like Director Malewski said, hopefully this can set a precedent for these future, Black Student Alliance big events, and hopefully student government can have a really good role in that. I think it's one of the more important things that we can do right now for our campus community. With that, I would like to move the Finance Committee amendments.
Is there any objection to adopting the Finance Committee amendments? Is there any discussion on that either? Question's been called. Second, is there any objection? Seeing none, they shall be adopted. We'll go back into discussion. Senator Schnepp, did you have any remarks?
Yes, I did. Okay, I think that this event is amazing that you're putting on, but my concern is that you need to contact Homecoming Center and let them know that you are doing this so you can build a relationship with them. I want to state that I do not think you need their permission at all. To be honest, at the beginning of this meeting, I was questioning this bill, but after hearing you two speak, I think this is amazing that you are putting on, and I kind of understand where you guys are coming from, and I don't want Homecoming Central to think, oh, there's a different reason for why you're putting this on, and I want them to hear from you why they're putting this on and not through the grapevine why you guys are putting this on. So I just strongly suggest you guys contact them just so you can build a relationship and kind of explain to why you need this event to happen.
Yes, and I will for sure. I would love to get their contact info from somebody. Bet.
Yeah, I also want to just emphasize too that, like, to bring back the historical context of it all, like, from my perspective, sometimes it's a little ironic why you have to justify why this is happening when historically speaking, like, Black people were excluded, and that's why they had to create their own community and their own Black homecoming, essentially. So, like, if anything, like, it kind of is self-explanatory. Like, I get the specifics, but also, like, this is the reality of our situations and our lives. So, like, that kind of explains, like, why it kind of needs to happen and, like, why it's even here to begin with. It began with because of discrimination and segregation, which we now see out and how people play out in, like, segregation, which obviously with time and community, hopefully that'll be less and less. But, like, let's just remember and emphasize where that originated and who started and why we'd have to explain that. So.
And then to carry on with that, like how I just said, like, I'll get their contact info. Like, I love that. That is me taking a step forward, trying to take initiative and building a community. But
that's not our job.
Exactly. As she just said, when you're a part of a larger community, I challenge everybody to push for the smaller communities in the area to speak up. So me as president of Black Student Alliance, I've challenged all Black orgs to be a part of Homecoming Week. Not just the major Black orgs, but I don't know, the Isorettes? Stormettes. It's a dancing team, but I tell them to be a part of our Black Homecoming. I'm trying to get everybody that is Black to be a part of Black Homecoming, along with everybody that feels welcomed enough to come and be a part of Black Homecoming.
Which you are.
Exactly,
Because
which all of you are.
If you come to us and it's genuine and it's real, that'll be reciprocated, trust me, because we just want to have a good time and enjoy ourselves. That's literally what it is.
Same as everybody.
Do yield. Senator Mays.
I just kind of wanted to say, like, I think we're kind of forgetting the fact that this is a finance bill. I feel like we're more so arguing over the message that BSA is trying to send, the purpose of the event, all of these things. And it almost feels like some of the statements have been putting requirements on BSA for a future vote, anything like that. I think this event is very good. It's setting a precedent. It's open to, I don't know what that is. It's open to anyone who wants to participate in it. I don't think there's any bounds for us to really say no to it. If you have a reason to say no to it that's related to a financial issue on the bill, that makes sense. But otherwise, I mean, I just feel like it's kind of insensitive to look at this event and see how you want to perceive it and then say, I'm not voting for this or voting yes to this because I think they could have done it a different way. I think they should work with, like, homecoming and things like that. Even if they want to do it in the future, if they don't want to do it, I think right now the bill as it is perfectly fine. I think the message they're trying to send, everything they're trying to do is fine. And I think we should just focus on the finance bill as it is.
Do yield. Senator Becker.
Yeah, so I wanted to go back to what I was saying earlier. I now understand the reason I was originally confused as to why we were having two separate things was I thought that you guys were trying to do a celebration of Iowa State traditions, because that's like what I've always been told homecoming is. So now that I'm saying that because
Yeah, so I'm going to rule that this is going to be germane as funding the event. You're all right. As funding the event, like, yes, this is a finance bill, but the event as a whole, like, this provides the ability to do that. So, Senator Becker, you can continue.
I'm just saying, because your intention is to celebrate Black culture, which is wonderful, I now see that this is totally different than what Iowa State homecoming is trying to do, which is like all Iowa State focused. So I will be voting yes, and I think that this is a good event. I yield.
which specifically is that we help out the state.
Senator Matthews.
Yeah, so I just had a quick question. Where is there a central place that all of these events are going to be taking place? And I might have missed that. I just wanted to clarify that really quick.
No. So the tailgate, the painting, and one other event would be at the Black Cultural Center. Yep, the MPAC event would be at the Black Cultural Center. Monday would be at Iowa State, the Iowa State Gym. My bad, Iowa State Gym, Old State Gym, like the gym that's upstairs.
Okay.
Just because there needs to be more space for the silent disco.
So are any of them located outside? I see that you have some like the hand warmers.
One.
So
The Afro skate. My bad for interrupting you. But,
No, you're good.
Afro skate party is in Des Moines. It's for a skating rink because we don't have one on campus. We have ice skating, but not like roller skating.
Okay. I mean the biggest thing then, if you have events outside, do you have rain? What happens if it rains? If you have an outside event or anything like that, have you looked into that?
So the only outdoor event is the one on Wednesday, which is the pumpkin carving / bowling celebration. If it does rain, it'll probably just end up being moved to the BCC since BSA and multicultural orgs have first dibs on the BCC. We can also put an event request just in case that does happen, so we have that as a backup. But I don't plan on it raining, and if it does rain, we'll either probably move it to the BCC, if I'm being completely honest. We just wanted a more open space, so for an influx of people, and if anyone's ever been to the BCC, there isn't much grass space to do what we wanted to do, hence why I wasn't there.
That makes sense. I had an event last year that got rained out, unfortunately, and so I just wanted to make sure that if you guys had plans, but I yield.
Yep, and just to also for risk management, because I feel you, we also have the BCC reserved for the whole week. So just in case anything does happen, we do have a fallback plan.
Senator Slater.
Yeah, so I might have missed it, and I apologize if I did, but have you booked State Gym? Because I know that is a very popular and okay, you have?
Yep.
All right, that's my only question. Thank you. I yield.
Senator Matthews, did you have something? Question has been called for and seconded. Is there any objection to voting or closing debate? Seeing no objection, Senator Ogba, do you have any closing comments?
No.
All right, we will move into a vote then. Being a finance bill, we will do a roll call vote. So when I say your name, please say yes, no, or abstain. We will start with Ogba. Becker. Bruick. Burks. Cecil. Engelken. Frencher. Heidenreich. Kamstra. Kohlhaus. Kuehler. Mahoney. Margaret. Matthews. Mays. Moskar. Patel. Schneff. Shivraj. Slade. Slater. Tansey. Thornton. Topete. Vo. And Yonting. Did I forget anyone? Oh, Senator Dre. With a vote to 27-0, the bill passes.
Thank you. I also just want to say one more quick thing really quick. Moving forward, one of DEI committee's initiatives is getting more multicultural student orgs involved and requesting funding or resources or whatever from student government. So I just want you guys to keep in mind when you guys are asking questions, are we as student government, are we stewarding or are we gatekeeping student government and its resources? And think about that intent when asking questions, because if I'm being honest, sometimes the questions you ask really make people wonder why are they even being asked, because it just sometimes it's for us, we're this makes so much sense, but why do we have to prove our experience and why we need our own space when we weren't the ones who started that to begin with? So I just want to say that as well.
Seeing no internal matters, we will jump into new business, starting with 2022-2-013A. approving the 2023-2024 election apportionments with Speaker Mahoney.
So basically, this is a required bill as part of the bylaws and the Constitution. Every year, Election Commission does the numbers and basically decides how the Senate seats are divvied up amongst all of us. And it basically just requires ratification by Senate. Nothing is changing. The numbers haven't changed enough that no Senate seats or numbers are changing from last year. So it's more or less a just required bill that we see and ratify.
Are there any questions of intent? Seeing none, we'll move on to 2022-2-014F, funding menstruation product dispensers for gender-neutral bathrooms in the MU with Senator Kuehler.
I yield my time to Director Everest.
Oh, I've been waiting on this one. Okay. Hi, friends. As some of you know, one of my big initiatives is promoting menstrual equity. So with that, putting some menstrual products in gender-neutral restrooms for a multitude of reasons. As we kind of touched base on earlier, at that joint Senate and City Council meeting, the National College Health Assessment, so something that our college takes place in, we got data from last year. It's on the Student Wellness website. I really encourage all of you to take a peek at it. What it did is it assessed many different things. The biggest thing that it assessed that really resonated with me was suicide risk, isolation, loneliness, not feeling welcome, things like that. And students that tested or reported the highest of these were gender nonconforming or LGBTQIA plus students. Sorry, I'm really passionate about this. And so this is a group of students that is incredibly marginalized in a lot of ways, but there's a lot of really easy ways that we can demonstrate to the whole community. As a member of the LGBTQIA plus community myself, even if a project for my community doesn't directly impact me, it makes me feel more welcome. And so the biggest thing is when we are talking about students who are gender nonconforming, non-binary, transgender, things like that, menstruation is simply a biological process. It has nothing to do with what clothes you wear, what pronouns you use, or how you identify anyone. Female identifying students can access them. The reality is they're an expensive product and nobody really enjoys menstruation. And I think that we, as a student government, by putting these dispensers in, specifically in the Memorial Union, I want to put surveys on them, little QR codes. I want to track the usage. In the Memorial Union, you have high student foot traffic, and it's a contained environment with their own janitorial system, so I can actually keep track on exact numbers and things like that. Get some really good data, and then hopefully have this become eventually a campus-wide initiative. So I think this is just a really great way to support the students on campus who need it most, but also general student population.
Are there any questions of intent for Director Everest? Seeing none, we'll move on to 2022-2-015F, funding scuba diving and snorkeling club with Senator Yonting.
Yeah, so this bill, they are asking funding for certification so that they can participate in safe scuba diving. So that's basically it.
Are there any questions of intent for Senator Yonting? Seeing none, we'll move on to our final bill of the evening, 2022-2-016Y, creating the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Budget with Vice Speaker Bruick.
Hey everyone, so this bill is just designed to effectively give the DEI committee their a budget similar to how SI and PR do. So currently we have line items in the student government operating budget that go through SI and PR committee and the finance director for them to fund their activities. Just have a little, I think each of them is about $2,000, and that's what this would be as well, to do their thing and put on events that they want to do. So this is just kind of doing something that I think has been long overdue and kind of bring in the committee on board with all the other committees that hold and plan events. So I yield for questions of intent.
Are there any questions of intent for Vice Speaker Bruick? Seeing none, we will move on to closing comments. Does anyone have any closing comments for the evening? Senator Thornton.
So I think we really need to remember that we serve students and we aren't meant to be intimidating them when they come to ask for help. Asking if they've utilized other methods of funding is totally normal. We do that for every club that comes in. But we quickly, as a body, got out of hand. We ended up asking them about a future event with a future Senate with future funding. And we were basically trying to ask them to justify why they were here instead of scrutinizing what they were spending money on. And I want to remind you that events like Black Homecoming, events like Pride began out of protest and not out of celebration. And that's the history behind them. These people are creating spaces for themselves in places where otherwise weren't originally created. And we as a group want to be uplifting and welcoming. So the series of questions that we had tonight was almost exactly gatekeeping. It made it not welcoming. If more students see this live stream tonight, I worry that it will cause them to hesitate to apply for funding, cause them to hesitate to create clubs on campus because we created an example that is not what we want to set the precedent of ourselves, of future Senates. So I would just ask you to kind of, in your head tonight, go over what happened and say, how could I have phrased that better? Because I know that you as a senator and us as a body did not mean to cause harm. None of us did. And so I just hope that you realize that we can all do better. That's it.
Senator Dre.
Hi, everybody. I didn't speak on the bill tonight because I just wanted to listen to hear what other people had to say. But I did want to bring up the fact that we shouldn't be afraid as body members to ask questions, especially when they are ruled germane to the bill. And so I just wanted everyone to keep that in mind as we're talking about this.
Senator Vo.
I just wanted to tell everyone, or like I guess just say this, but it's like a privilege to be a white student and walk outside of campus and be represented, especially effortlessly. Like as soon as you walk into a space, you know there's someone that's gonna look like you. That's a privilege to have. So creating these spaces that aren't white centered really make students of color feel very excited. Like I myself am not Black, but I know that all the other multicultural student organizations have been sharing this event on social media especially, and a lot of people are very excited and actually also very proud. So they're actually, they're happy for other organizations, and just remember that like all spaces most of the time do not represent students of color.
Senator Burks.
Okay, and I'd like to second that, and I'd say like today was like an example.
Senator Ogba.
Yeah, I wanted to say something real quick, and I was going to delegate my time to Director Maluski. I guess in proposing this bill, I kind of expected something like this to happen. So I really wish that you all come to the town hall that we will have on November 15th, correct? And to also please continue to be in contact with your department, your college's DEI representatives. And I will delegate my time to Director Maluski.
I second what everyone said, and honestly, a lot of people told me a lot of different things about what it comes to like being in student government, like requesting money and things of that fashion. And honestly, like tonight, I was surprised because it was not the response or questioning that I was expecting at all, because student government talks about how they represent the whole student body, but the types of questions you were asking didn't relate for the intent or impact for the student body was meant for, but how that in fact impacted the majority. And also, that being said, like, I'm just sitting and asking myself, like, why for some of these questions, like, why do you need reasoning? Why do you need justification? Because I know if any other group, like regardless of that topic, if they were like, I want to create an event and I'm requesting funding to celebrate and enhance our community, I would be like, yes, as long as all the money makes sense, yes. So like, just really think about your questioning and like what your position is in student government and who are you really serving, because sometimes some of these questions really show who you care about in that perspective, because that's why I'm like just so surprised, honestly.
Senator Arbor, do you yield?
Can I say something real quick?
Yes, do your time.
Yeah, I guess like with that, I guess like being in positions like this where I'm the only, or where I'm one of the only like black people, it gets very predictable that like, you know, conversations about like things that are specifically like pro-black will get out of hand in situations like that. So yeah, I yield.
Senator Tepete.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that I really like that they came in and talked about that, because it is only the beginning. Being a part of the Latino and Hispanic community, it's only going to grow, and you're going to get more bills like this from more cultural background organizations. And yeah, I just want you to think about that. I am a senior graduating, but I do want you to look back at how this is going to affect the incoming new students that are coming in, because they do see this. I mean, they're going to hear about me being a part of Student Senate. I am going to go back, share my experiences, and they are going to hear about everything. And so I just want you to think about how this will affect not just like what your opinions and ideas are, but how you, once you go into the workforce, once you go out into the real world, how you're gonna see this in real life as well, outside of just university and school.
Senator Kuehler.
I think it's great that we all ask questions, and I think it's important in our duty as senators to be prudent, to ask questions. But tonight was different. We have seen countless finance bills this session so far, and most of them went through with like one or two questions. It was very quick, and this bill was not entirely different. And the fact that we went on for almost 30 minutes of debate, I don't know. I really don't think there really was a difference in this bill to justify the huge debate we had. So that's all I have. I yield.
Senator Mays.
I honestly just want to say, I don't think anyone who spoke tonight in like questioning the bill was ill-intended or anything, but I think it kind of just represents an issue of people not understanding certain things that can be perceived as offensive or just kind of rude to ask or say. And I honestly think all of us could potentially benefit from like a multicultural training or something like that. So yeah, town hall is one of them, but honestly, just learning about all that kind of stuff and participating in these events and anything like that could be really beneficial to any of us to avoid issues like this in the future.
Senator Kamstra.
So, sorry. First, I would like to also like commend everyone for speaking up on this issue. One, I personally am going to look back at my own words and make sure that everything that I asked was within like good intent, but also not gatekeeping. I love that we are able to call each other out on that. But I would also like to express disappointment because in the back of my own head, I knew when this was going to come out, there still is going to be apprehension. And that's still a world we sadly live in. I now feel better prepared to go back to those who are apprehensive and defend this with my full heart behind it. because we're asking difficult questions. And I understand, like, it's obviously a very frustrating time, and I hope to God that I never have to think about what is this person gonna think in the back of my head, especially if they're a member of the IFC community. But I know when I sent out the agenda for tonight, I did have apprehension among close friends of mine, which was disappointing. And questioning tonight are questions that I'm gonna get, and there's gonna be even ruder questions that I'm gonna be asked about this, but I now feel the capability to go defend this, and I hope you all do as well, to go out and defend this in all of your own communities. So that's all I got to say. I yield.
Senator Slade.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate Senator May's and Senator Thornton's points. I think they were both really well put, really eloquent. I think that even though ill intention wasn't present in questions asked tonight, I think student government as a whole should do everything we can to avoid even a whiff of gatekeeping any resources from any student organizations, any bodies on campus. So I think just some reflection, and like Senator Mays said, multicultural town hall, some sort of like training meet with your D&I directors. We could all benefit from some reflection after tonight. And yeah, I yield.
Are there any further closing comments? Seeing none, I'll turn it over to Vice Speaker Bruick.
Hey everyone, I just wanted to say, thank you to everyone, people, who were bothered by how tonight went. I don't think there's any other way we can do better as a body than if people who felt uncomfortable with how tonight went express that. So sincerely, if anything that anyone here has done has bothered you, anything that I've said, anyone else here said, I think as a Senate officer, I do apologize that that's happened in our Senate, and I appreciate you guys for speaking up. It definitely means a lot, even if it is difficult for all of us to perhaps hear and have to confront. With that, and on to more businessy business, I have several announcements about Senate mentorship. So the first thing I have is the Senate Student Government Mentorship Survey. I forget the exact name I have on the Qualtrics form, but that. I met with last Friday with Elizabeth Householder. She gave some very, very helpful comments on the survey and how I can improve it. I'm going to implement those and get all that stuff implemented, and then that should be getting sent out to all of you very soon. And we can move forward on my plans for revamping the mentorship program for the coming years. So that's big. But that's a future thing. So I would also like to move on to my second announcement, which is what, as Vice Speaker, I'm going to be doing for this year, for this Senate, to kind of lead a mentorship program. And the first thing I wanted to talk about with that was working meetings. So the plan for, I'm going to have some working meetings for these last few sessions of this second session of Student Government Senate. So starting with November 9th Senate meeting, we'll have some working meetings starting at 5 p.m., just in the same room as Senate, and we're going to touch on some different fundamental topics in student government, stuff like the Constitution, the bylaws, Robert's rules, basically the fundamentals and what you need to know if you want to be a senator, in my mind. So I'm going to start with that. It's obviously going to be 4 senators, strictly speaking, but all cabinet members and members of the Judiciary, Election Commission, anyone is welcome to attend, ask questions, get the information if they're interested. So we're going to start on that. I also have some mentorship pairing, so mentor-mentee pairing that we're working on. I've talked to Chief of Staff Roberts, and we're kind of doing historically Senate mentorship pairings have just been within Senate. We're this year extending that beyond just Senate. It's going to be a all cross-branch initiative. I've already talked to a couple people who are going to be mentors. I've reached out to everyone who I would like to be a mentor, and I'm waiting back on a few responses as to whether they'd be willing. But once I get all that back, we are already starting to work on pairings, so those should be sent out soon, and we can start getting moving on that. And that's all I have for that. And then if committee chairs, if you could hang tight and talk to me real quick right after Senate. I just wanted to put something on your radar, talk to you about something, so if you could do that, that would be great. I yield to Speaker Mahoney.
All right. Obviously, there's been a lot said here in these closing announcements, and I definitely appreciate a lot of the things said, and I do think it is important that we do remind ourselves that we certainly do, and we do this with every organization, ask, you know, have you considered funding from this person, or have you worked with this person, this department, whatever, but we don't delve further than that usually. So while I was excited originally when I saw a lot of placards go up that we may have some discussion tonight, I quickly kind of grew disappointed with some of the way it went. But I won't delve into that further. I think a lot of people have said it better than I will say it. The other thing I will go back to the joint city council meeting. So thank you all for coming to that. I think we had a fantastic discussion with them. They always end up filling up way more time than we anticipate. But I do want to say that is like the start of the conversation. So if there is projects, individuals, problems, concerns, anything that you think the city should know about or we can work with the city on, this is the start of those kinds of conversations, I think. And so I do encourage you to reach out to ex officio Garmin, reach out to members of the local affairs committee, or reach out to the mayor or any member of city council, and continue to have those kind of conversations and engage with them. Moving on with that, I do want to remind everyone we actually only have 4 meetings left. So if there are bills you're considering, organizations that you're part of that want funding, anything like that, I encourage you to kind of move ahead with that. We do have 4 meetings left for the end of the semester. I do want to say too, everyone here, if you ever have problems or concerns with your place in the student government, finding your path, finding your purpose, just feeling like that you belong and that you should be part of this organization, you should. I mean, every single person in this room is a capable leader that represents a fantastic majority of the campus, and all of you do great work, and I want to remind you of that. And I want to encourage people to reach out to me, reach out to anybody if there are problems so that we can help. We don't always know if there are problems that we don't know about, we can't help. And that is a failure on our parts to not do better, to seek out potential problems and seek out people that may be finding their path and finding their purpose. That's a failure on my part, and I apologize for that. On a little bit less of a serious note and an announcement, next week we're actually going to start Senate at 7:30 in the Campanile room, because there is a large lecture. Nicole Hannah-Jones is coming to speak on the 1619 project next week. I know there's a lot of interested individuals in the room that would like to go, so I'm just going to push Senate back so that people can go if they so choose. I think it's just a general good idea when we have big lectures like this. It's over in CY Stevens, so I think just moving forward for the next year, if we have huge lectures on a Wednesday night that a lot of interested students and a lot of interested senators are going, I might just push Senate back a little bit so that we can kind of accommodate that. There's been some concerns in the past about we don't. So with that, 7:30 next week. We'll see you in the Campanile room. Move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
And with that, this meeting is adjourned.